and death are the same. Both can have value and purpose.
Hear me, my son. I alone will tell you the truth. Death is the only punishment here.
Death is in our air, in sea, in earth. It can come for us at any moment. To show your true heart is to risk your life. Enemies are everywhere and friends nowhere. Life and death are the same. Both can have value and purpose. Remember, we live and we die. We control nothing beyond that.
This is not where we die. We should be corpses. But here we are. You can't leave. They'll stop you.
Please, Anjin-sama. You must not involve yourself.
Toranaga is planning something. Find out what it is.
Only one episode left before the finale.
出立は一刻も遅らせることはできません。
もう話すことはござらん。
私はいつでも出ていけまする。
FX's Shogun, next Tuesday at 10 on FX.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, one and all over the globe, to the Shogun Episode 9 live discussion breakdown. And it is getting closer and closer to the end, guys. Here we are. We are down to only one episode left of Shogun before this phenomenal show is unfortunately gone forever. Because as it looks like right now, it doesn't look like we can expect a season 2. So I am going to enjoy every second that we have left of this phenomenal series, and just cannot wait to see how it ends. This has been so good from start to finish. This show kind of came out of nowhere and blew everybody's socks away. And it's going to be interesting to see how they wrap this final episode up. We have learned that the last episode is around 1 hour in screen time. So it's going to be interesting to see them fit all of these events in this final episode and see if they can tie things up with a nice little bow. But I am looking forward to it. Welcome, everybody. And we're going to dive into episode 9 tonight.
Wow. What an episode. It was awesome. Amazing. I was shocked. I mean, it was a roller coaster. What fun. And yeah, I can't wait to see what they have coming up for episode 10. I finally softened my stance. I was on Mariko. I was like, oh my God, they finally made this Easter Island head have a personality. Oof. And that lasted all of about 9 minutes.
I will say this for Mariko and Blackthorn, actually. I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past where, obviously part of this is a kind of a love story between Mariko and Blackthorn, but for me personally, I feel like the actor and the actress portraying Blackthorn and Mariko, they haven't had the best of on-screen chemistry, that we've seen up until this point. But I do feel in episode 9 we did start to see there was something there between the Mariko's seppuku scene and her at the very ending that I'm sure we're going to dive deep into. This episode was the first episode that I was really starting to see at least a little bit of chemistry between Blackthorn and Mariko's characters that hadn't really been there before. So I will say that for episode 9.
Yeah, I kind of picked up on, almost like the trauma or the You know, they at the point that they finally did just openly, you know, hold hands at least, and then a little later they got a little closer than that. But they
Mm,
finally just you know, through the weight of the circumstances that they were in, finally just said, you know, really, it was kind of they didn't have um much. They knew that they didn't have much time left, kind of thing, and finally said that, you know, put all this stuff aside, which is very strange because Marco's entire character, her entire reason for being was upholding honor, you know, doing things by the book, by the rules, by tradition, by
yeah.
you know, to the letter. And
Mm,
then finally, you know, she's letting go just that slightest bit, and she actually, you know, she showed some emotion. The eightfold fence was down. She, you know, when she
yes.
collapsed. But man, that's the thing. Yeah, I don't want to delay too much longer because those so many powerful scenes, so much emotion, and it was a roller coaster. I mean, you did get a little chance for a breather in between, but a
Hmm.
lot of really intense, and kudos on the dialogue, man, for these
Yeah.
guys. This show, amazing, and going all the way back to your original point. Uh, you know, in 2024, whenever anything is a remake of anything, just by default, you almost have to say it's going to be worse. This, I don't think it was worse. This one is how it should be done. This is how a remake should
Mm,
be done, true to the source. I would have to. I think you said after this is all over with, we're going to go back and rewatch the original miniseries. I'd love to do a compare and contrast because I
yeah.
don't know how this could, how that the original could surpass what we've been
Mhm.
presented with here.
We haven't. I actually. It's been funny. Actually, I've been seeing some comments on that in my comment sections over the last week or two. People comparing the two, and it seems to be you have a lot of people that are in favor for this current iteration, but there are a few people that do prefer the '80s miniseries, and I think maybe part of it goes to which iteration you were exposed to first. That tends to be something you favor. Like if you grew up seeing the '80s miniseries, it probably holds a very special place in your heart. So
Mm.
having anything top that might be a little different as opposed to someone who's watching this iteration for the first time, having not seen the '80s. But I do want to address this as well from Divine Chakra. So she's truly dead. Someone please balance me here. I know, and that's another thing. I mean, if we're looking at the source material and they're staying true to that, then it looks like, unfortunately, yes, Mariko is probably really dead. But at the end of the day, this is an adaptation, so I mean, I think she's gone personally, but who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, adaptations tend to change things every once in a while. Who knows? Imagine if Mariko survived the
Oh
blast. That could
God.
be pretty interesting.
She'd be wrecked, man.
Yeah,
She's
She'd
gonna be
dude.
missing some bits and
I
pieces.
mean, it literally like propelled her
Yeah, I got
forward.
some good stills.
Like
I got
she
some
was just
really
like a
good
cross, and
stills.
she just went whoop, and fire around her. I don't know, man.
I think she's gone personally.
It's sad.
But yeah, here, let me pull this up. Yeah, there's some. I got some really good stills from it. You can really see the point of impact when the blast occurs. And we'll take a look at this real quick
Point of
before we
impact.
You
say
got the angle shots. You
awesome.
got
I got it
all
all.
the different.
I got it
The
all.
Jeremy
There's
was the
studio.
even one
cameraman.
shot.
He said, "Snap, snap, snap."
There's even one shot in particular where they zoom in on her face after the explosion, and it's just you'll see it's pretty awkward. But here we see Mariko. It almost looks like they created like some kind of dummy doll so they could really do this explosion because that does not look like Mariko, or maybe that's just her stunt double. But here she is, and then boom, we see the explosion starting. So
Ooh.
already it's not looking pretty good for Mariko. Um, then we go to this, and it's like,
Oh,
okay, is that
rough.
her arm? Is that part of her arm blown off? Maybe who knows?
Oh shit.
Who knows? But then we see this one. They zoom into this shot. We get a close up of
Oh
her
my
face,
God.
and I swear, every single one of these shots is in sequential order. I paused this thing down and slowed it down as slow as I possibly could to get these screenshots. Every single one of these shots is in sequential order. How the scene happens starts like this, then that, then that. Then we get this freaking shot shoved in the middle where you just see a nice little close up of Mariko's face. And
Ooh.
yeah,
Oh man.
pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
I
Oh.
didn't
Pretty
catch that
interesting.
one. You know, I played it. I
It's
didn't go do it in
it's
slow mo. That's pretty cool that they put that in there, though. You know, and even then, she's
yeah.
still quite stoic and stuff. You know, there were a few things in the episode that were a little bit. I mean, it was full of action, and I had my allowance for suspension of disbelief, and because they were when the ninjas were in there, that was the shinobi. That was so cool, man. I was so happy to see that. It was very fortunate that they just happened to have the fuses, like they go into the storeroom,
fuses on their raid,
right there, and they say it so loud too, like, "Hey, get the fuses!" Oh yeah, and then
they weren't stealthy in that moment.
Yeah,
no,
not stealthy at all.
Though, man, he looked like, oh my god,
he was so scared in this scene.
I'm hoping that Blackthorn is not so like upset right now that he doesn't remember that moment, because I swear
this moment here,
he's like, dude, come on, man, you're like,
get over here, help me with this.
Why are you acting like a scared kid in the corner?
Look at how scared he is in the corner right there. He would not act. That's a good point, Scarlett. I hope Blackthorn does remember that, because right there in that moment when he really needed Yabushigi the most to potentially help save all of their fucking lives, he's stuck to the wall like glue over here. So that is a good point, Scarlett. I hope he remembers that.
Well, like a great man once said, guilty feet have got no rhythm, and he is guilty.
Yes. And I do agree with Jeremiah 209, and I have heard a lot of other people who have read the book or seen the miniseries, say similar sentiments, where they wish Blackthorn's Japanese was a little bit more on par where it is at this point in the story. And again, I know we've talked about this in the past. I know, Dana, you've brought it up a few times as well, where that one book scene in particular where Yabushigi forces Blackthorn to learn Japanese under the threat of death for him and the whole village. That was kind of one of those pivotal scenes that I know a lot of book readers wish was in the show. But man. All right, but let's dive into all this. But before we do, let me scroll up here and say what is up to the awesome chat. Let's see who we got in here this evening. We'll leave a nice little that's a fitting shot for now. Let's see who we have in here this evening. And again, thank you everybody for joining us on this fine Wednesday night, hump day as it is. And we're going to dive into things. We got Michael Lockhart in the chat. What is up, Michael Lockhart? Good to see you, my friend. Welcome. We got the one and only Kayla. What is up, Kayla? Stopping by to leave a like. Have a great stream. Thank you so much, Kayla. You are the absolute best. And Kayla and I will be live this Friday night, I believe. No, Thursday. I think it's Thursday. And we are going to dive into all things A Song of Ice and Fire. We've had some pretty good news on the A Song of Ice and Fire front lately in terms of Duncan Egg news. House of the Dragon Season 2 is getting closer and closer. So Kayla and I are going to dive into all of the latest and greatest this week. So be on the lookout for that as well. We got Seamus in... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you are into House of the Dragon, Ice and Fire, anything George R.R. Martin, I don't know. I don't know anybody as well read, as up to date as you and Kayla. I could hang out on a House of the Dragon stream or something, but when it comes to you two guys geeking out about like latest drops and stuff, I couldn't even hold a candle to it. You guys talking it over is the place to geek out about House of the Dragon, Ice and Fire, anything like that, Game of Thrones, all that stuff. You guys know it inside out. You speak friggin' not Dothraki, the Valerian.
Yeah, Zaldrizos Buscari Ixos.org. Yeah, you gotta watch out. Kayla is much more versed in the High Valerian than I am. I know a few phrases, I know a few words here and there, but when it comes to the High Valerian, Kayla is practically speaking it fluently at this point. So I'm sure we'll get a taste of that on the stream as well. But thank you, man. I do appreciate that. A Song of Ice and Fire has been a main passion of mine for many, many years. Long before Game of Thrones was even a show, I was deeply entrenched in the books. So it's always fun to go back to the Song of Ice and Fire roots, as it were. So thank you for that.
Well, yeah, man. Got to give credit where credit is due.
Appreciate it.
So, honestly, that's anybody needs to know. Go to Jeremy and Kayla. They got the know.
That's how I literally found you, was through Game of Thrones, looking for Game of Thrones stuff. So
Yeah, a lot of people do it, and that's always pretty interesting to see how people stumble upon the channel. And it's usually between the three shows that we've covered here. Usually something A Song of Ice and Fire based, whether it's the book lore, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, or whether it's our From crowd as well, which was so freaking cool. I cannot wait to dive into From season 3. Or if you found us through Shogun, we're very much glad to have all you guys here hanging out with us. Either way, welcome one and welcome all. Welcome one and all. We got Seamus in the house. What is up, Seamus? Hail, Jeremy. Hail, chat. I need some Fuji in episode 10. I do too, man. We got to see Fuji again.
Yeah, no Fuji, no Toranaga, no Buntaro.
No.
I mean, there were a lot of this episode was noteworthy by the number of people that were absent, and I gotta say, man, I didn't really miss him. I didn't need him in this one. There was so much going on.
I didn't really recognize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, even with Toranaga, with Toranaga being the main character in the series, pretty much. I mean, in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, will there be a Toranaga scene for like the first half of the episode, and then I didn't even think about it for the rest of it. It's just so entrenched with what was going on here with these characters. But yeah, it was brutal episode, as Wolfspear says. Absolutely brutal, indeed. Indeed. We got Jen Hack in the house. What is up, Jen Hack? Good to see you. We got Kai in the building. Crimson Herring. And yeah, Kai's been calling it since day one that we will not see a all-out assault on Osaka Capital. Kai was convinced of that. And Kai is feeling validation right now because you were right, my friend. You were right. It was not the Crimson Sky that we were potentially thinking it was going to be, was it? But it was very effective nonetheless, which we will definitely dive into. We got Henry Bemis in the house. What is up, Henry Bemis? What's up, folks? Looking forward to this discussion. Still don't know what to think of this episode. It was one of those episodes where it kind of just leaves you reeling, right after it ends. I had to go back and watch it a second time to really kind of digest it myself as well, which I tend to do with all of the episodes. I like to watch them at least twice before I start making my reviews and breakdowns. But this episode in particular, you just go away from it thinking, "Holy hell, what did I just see?" It was pretty good. On my first watch through, I was so afraid about the execution as it could easily have been cliche and a cliche over the top. It was going so well. I was afraid they would drop the ball here. They didn't. Absolutely. And Kai brought up something in the comment sections for our episode 9 breakdown video that I've wholeheartedly agreed with, that we'll definitely dive into a little bit deeper. But in terms of the Mariko fight scene, I feel like they played the fight scene incredibly well. It was super realistic. And I was really glad that they weren't tempted to do what a lot of productions do nowadays and go like super over the top girl boss, where you have this tiny girl defeating tons of dudes with relative ease. It's just very unrealistic, as fun as those scenes can be sometimes. I really appreciated how they approached this fight scene, where you could clearly see how skilled Mariko was, but at the same time, she's fighting in insurmountable odds here with fighting all of these men. There's no possible way she could have won that fight. So I really love the way that they played that. It was very realistic and not over the top at all. Because, yeah, you tend to see shows fall into these kind of tropes and cliches from time to time, and Shogun has been pretty good for the most part at avoiding those cliches and tropes.
Right. And especially since the spearmen were ordered not to harm her. So she was doing a good, I mean, she could hold them off for a little bit realistically, but if they had wanted to spear her, they could have. They were ordered not to damage her. But the scenes where they 4 or 5 of them bound the Naginata, they kind of crossed each other and pushed it down. But the thing is, you're exactly right. Her skill was on display there. It was awesome, a beautiful, beautiful scene. And they didn't jump the shark. They didn't make something happen that couldn't possibly happen. They didn't press our disbelief, too hard. It was so well choreographed, really beautiful, awesome. And then for her just to say, literally just flat out say there's too many, I can't fight this many people or something, whatever she said. Picture perfect to a T. And I mean, of course, anything involving that kind of stuff gets my hackles up, during the scene. I'm waiting for that cringe to come, but man, it was spot on. I was very content. I was very content all the way through with this, the way they played it emotionally, the way they played it realism wise, realism as far as things that are possible in reality. It was, I mean, just right. And those arrows falling right by her feet as she was stepping forward and stuff. And that first guy, the first guy took the arrow and he dropped. He wasn't quite dead, but then Mariko told the second guy, will you lead the charge? Man, the way that quick exchange of fighters when Mariko's samurai battled with the Ashigaru in the courtyard, and then there was literally like one guy left before they opened the door and added the reinforcements.
Yeah, and he just gets scared.
Fucking awesome, man. I loved it, man. I loved everything about this.
It was good. It was really good, and I do want to get everybody's take on that fight scene as well. Let me just say what is up to these last few, and again, big thank you to everybody joining us this evening on this fine Wednesday night. See Divine Chakra in the house. What is up, Divine Chakra? I'm sure Divine is waiting for House of the Dragon season 2, like we are as well. We got Dracula in the building. What is up, Dracula? I see Rooftop Korean in there as well. What is up, Rooftop? Good to see you. Got Jeremiah 209. What is up, Jeremiah? Good to see you. Good to see everybody this evening. And if I did miss your name, I am terribly sorry, but we are going to dive into some things now. I do see Richland, though. What is up, Richland? Good to see you as well. Hopefully I didn't miss too many people. I see a $5 super chat from Leo V. Thank you so much, Leo V. Very much appreciate that, my friend. What I learned from episode 9 is having one Mariko on your team is better than having 20 Ishido's men. One word best describes her character is valiant. Absolutely incredibly valiant, incredibly honorable and noble and brave. What Mariko did here, the fact that she was willing to come to Osaka under these pretenses, knowing most likely this would probably have a pretty good chance of ending in her death. Incredibly valiant, without a doubt. I mean, that's a very good way of describing her character. And again, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. You definitely deserve a whoa. Whoa! Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now let's dive into this stuff, shall we? Now, Scarlett and Dana, you guys as well. What was your first impression, Scarlett, on the Mariko fight scene?
Oh man, that was so good because I remember like just leading up to it as far as like the previous episodes and watching and trying to figure out, like, I ain't gonna lie, I fully thought we was gonna get a Crimson Sky there or something, and it just did not pan out. But then I was actually very pleased with what we did get, because just like Ravener was saying, the way like she was stepping in there with the guys behind her, and then like, I'm going to pass through here. They're like, no, you can't. They were literally just, even the fight between the men and how the guy was like, just basically like, I've given my life to you, and it's all this honor. And the guy even kind of let him do that. Like there's a second where a guy could have just ran up on him and killed him and just, didn't even give him that chance to say it. But it's just so, I don't know, the emotion that they put behind these scenes that really captivates you into them. I mean, I love this whole like series so much because of that. Yeah. And even her, I mean, the way she walked up and Raven was saying with the arrows, that got me. I love the arrows because we already know she's not scared of arrows. She let her husband, shoot 2 of them at her face. So she was just basically like, no, I'm going to pass. And then her talking back to the people that were on the side, basically getting them, like letting them know this is, you're trapped here. You're not free. And then, her going to say, well, I'll give up my life if, are you going to second me? You're part of our faith, right? Like then the plan, almost like what Toranaga's plan is being revealed. Like so many pieces are going on in this one moment of this fight scene that is just so good. Like, I enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I really did too. From start to finish, it was phenomenal. And Mai brings up a very good point here as well. Is Mariko is certainly skilled with the naginata, but her weapon has always been her words, and she definitely maxed out her stats on that in this episode, 100%. And that is a very good way of putting it. Not only is she, shown very good prowess at hand-to-hand combat, but at the end of the day, Mariko, her strength is the ability to be able to politically maneuver, and her words are very much as sharp, if not sharper, than her blade is as well. So that is a good point. But what about you, Dana? What did you think of the fight scene?
I loved the realism behind it. I love that they didn't give us a girl boss moment and they gave us a real moment in the fact that she is one woman going against all these men. And I love how they let her fall and realize that she can't defeat these men. I was going to be really upset if they just let her go out there and like samurai them to death, because I was like, let's be real, she couldn't do that. Like, as strong as she was, she couldn't do that. She wasn't strong enough, and I loved that they made her that vulnerable in that moment, that she had to admit defeat, but that's not what she was there for. And I just love the whole setup and her not backing down and trying and looking up at the men who were just watching, like, are any of you going to stand up and allow us to leave? Are you going to let them do this? And even as the arrows were coming, she still took those steps forward and was like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm gonna do what I can. I loved this moment.
It was good. I 100% agree, and just about everything you guys said. But yeah, I really like again how Kai said, a lot of you guys said in the comment sections, and you guys here. I really love how they really avoided falling into these traps and these tropes that we see in a lot of other samurai movies and TV series. Sometimes where you know what I mean. We'll see similar tropes that they tend to fall into. But yeah, I love the realism coming across here in this scene, and yeah, her just continuing to walk forward with all of these arrows just landing right at her feet. Which again, like you said, is something she's used to, if nothing else, living with Buntaro. But yeah, I was super impressed with how they portrayed the scene. But let us know in the chat as well. How did you guys enjoy the fight scene here, Mariko's fight scene? I know Ray Barnes is demanding explosive titties. Well, you might get them, my friend. You might get them, indeed. Indeed. I love to use the guns, finally using yeah, that was pretty good. We're definitely going to dive into that as well. Yeah, I'm glad she didn't wipe out the whole squad. That would have been a bit much. Exactly. I mean, I think we've seen that kind of fight scene time and time again in a lot of not just samurai stuff, but fight scenes in general across multiple different genres and mediums. We have tend to see that, yeah, you have just one person just wiping the floor with like 30 people. And as fun as those scenes can be sometimes to watch, it's not very realistic. And a show like Shogun, who has heavily been leaning on realism and trying to depict the most accurate version of feudal Japan that we've ever really seen, I'm glad that they kind of stayed true to the format of the show leading up to here. Realism has something they've been so good with up until this point. I'm glad they didn't throw that out the window for these last two episodes. So it's yeah, super impressive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've all seen Marvel movies. We've all seen any kind of animation, and that's the place for that stuff. The way they handled it here was so good, just right too. And Dana put her finger on it too when she collapsed, when she just fell to the ground, exhausted. The one thing I pointed out in the chat, and I wanted to point out here, the one thing, and another thing about her technique, even when she did land a blow on one of those guys, it was with the butt end of the naginata, not with the blade. Not with the blade.
She wasn't trying to kill.
Yeah, exactly. Because if she'd have just sliced and diced one of those guys, even one, that would have put blood on her hands, technically, and that would have called for some sort of rebuttal or something like that. It was so measured, so well controlled in all aspects. Just love.
Indeed.
Well, even the way she walked up to them with the weapon in her hand and how her hand was placed, it was so I like, it was just beautiful. Like the way she just walked towards them and that elegance in that moment, like she was still feminine, but she was still vulnerable. Like she knew she wasn't going to be able to defeat them, and that's not what this was for. This was to really call out everybody for, if we're not prisoners here, what is this?
Exactly.
Yeah. And she put her hand out, and her little assistant just like brought the naginata up and put it in her hand. Like,
throws it
wow.
in.
Love
Such a good scene. And it's the little scenes like that that I really appreciate.
Episode. Like, even though before this one, where she was, basically telling Ishido, I'm leaving.
Yeah. I'm leaving. You're not keeping me here. And again, like you said, she came here with a purpose and a mission, and she very much succeeded at it. And it wasn't to kind of show up here and kick everybody's ass. It was to expose the real Ishido and what he's really doing to these people here in Osaka, all of these hostages, and the tyrant that he really is. And she definitely was successful at exposing him at that, not only in this scene, but obviously with the final scene as well, which we will definitely talk about. But Leo V brings up, I wonder if Lord Kiyama and Lord Ono were good friends with Mariko's father. He seemed to favor her. And I think a big part of that just comes down to they're all Catholics. And we have seen in the past that Lord Kiyama and Ono, they deeply respect the church and the Catholic traditions, and they know that Mariko is a valued member of the church as well, being Catholic herself. So I have a feeling that the respect and the honor that Kiyama and Ono show to Mariko here in this scene is definitely part to do with the fact that they're all Christian, but probably them having some respect for her father and her family's line as well. So I think it's a little bit of both. I definitely think it's a little bit of both. Henry Bemis says, "Yeah, I was afraid she was going to kill Bill on them. The way they played it was much more realistic. Absolutely, it really was." Divine Chakra says, "Yeah, the Mariko fight scene was done so well. I loved it 100%. The show is truly amazing, and I hope they get awards because they surely earn them." Absolutely. That was another thing I saw a lot of people pointing out. Like, they should clean up during award seasons. If award seasons are, going to be based in any way, shape, or form on merit, then yeah, Shogun will certainly clean up. Indeed. Her honor dictated that she follow Toranaga's orders or die trying. Absolutely. And yeah, as again Jeremiah points out, Mariko's victory was showing the farce of what was happening in Osaka. Exactly. That's the true victory here. Indeed.
Yeah. And I love that she did use that. She's following her lord's orders. She has to follow her lord's orders. That supersedes all else. That is, like we've been saying since the very beginning, that is a woman within the constraints of that society, using the tools at her disposal. And that's what she did. She, said it again and again to Ishido, no matter what he came back with. She was like, I don't have a choice. And by extension, you don't have a choice. I'm going to do this because I have to do what my lord told me to do, my liege lord. Perfect, man. See, that's the thing. It breaks my heart that they finally they made Mariko awesome, and then for the blink of an eye.
Well, it makes me wonder, did she know this plan when she was with her husband at the tea? I can't remember.
Part started wondering that as well. That maybe that's why she declined the Bentaro's offer to finally give her what she wants. Maybe
and she was so harsh because she couldn't say anything.
It could be.
I don't know. I was trying to remember after I watched it, like when she got that message, and I'm assuming it was the episode prior. I just can't remember.
Yeah, I think Toranaga reveals everything to her after Hiramatsu's death is where I was kind of thinking as well.
That's what I thought.
We see that one scene between Mariko and Toranaga right after Hiramatsu dies, and even Mariko comes to the realization just as Toranaga is about to admit it about the whole theater that took place there and what Hiramatsu really did in that scene. So I get the feeling when Toranaga says to Mariko, "Now are you ready to do your part?" He probably filled her in on the plan then. I'm thinking anyway.
Yeah.
But Mariko's loyalty is absolutely astonishing. Mariko says, "Loyalty has no end." She proved it. Absolutely. I mean, characters like Mariko and again Hiramatsu as well, the loyalty that these characters have displayed to Toranaga, the lengths that they were willing to go to. including, not limited to giving up their own lives in pursuit of helping Toranaga reach his goal. I mean, that's the kind of loyalty you want to have people around you, true loyalty like that. And they displayed it. They absolutely displayed it. Indeed. And Ishido, you're not confined here. You can't just walk out of the gate without my guards using deadly force. Only Ishido, your logic makes sense. Yeah, I love that. Towards like after Mariko's seppuku attempt, we see Ishido totally try to play it off like, are we jailers? We're not jailers. All you gotta do is apply for a permit and you can leave. But yeah, come on. Totally had them people hostage. Indeed. Someone brought up something in the chat earlier that I 100% agreed with as well. One scene that we see a little bit earlier on in the episode was the scene between Mariko and her son, which I went away from that scene thinking like, man, this kid's a freaking, what a brat, what an ungrateful prick you are, kid. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I was the only one that was getting that vibe. But the way that he was just trying to disown his mother when she was trying to tell him, I'm only trying to do my duty to Toranaga. And the fact that the son was so kind of cold in this scene, I am no longer your son. I was like, this kid needs a little backhand right here. What did you guys think about the scene between Mariko and his son? Again, I have to take into account this is a kid. I mean, this is his mother, so it's a totally different mindset. So I can totally understand that. But the kid just came off a little bratish to me in this episode. What did you guys think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely bratty like Omi, bratty like Nabakato or Nagakato. I have avocado on the brain every time I say his name, so I have to correct myself. Nagakato. They just, they're just punks, kind of. And he had an offer. He had an offer of marrying into the other clan, which at the time, currently they're they have the advantage. He would have, and they would have explained to a young guy, look, you're pretty much, if you stick with Toranaga, you're doomed. He's losing. We outnumber him, yada yada. We hold all the cards, so we'll give you an advantageous marriage and your life. And it didn't take much to dangle in front of him, I think, to make him do that. It's tragic and stuff, but a lot of, if you place family loyalty and then the keys to a new car, on the other side, a young kid will, there's a good chance that they'll turn their back on everything, even if they're brought up in that kind of structure.
Yeah. What did you think, Scarlett, about the kid here?
Yeah, because I think he said something to Mariko about, I don't know if it was the other regents or whatever, you're not kind of listening to them. Almost like he's been away from his mom and dad and he's been here under their thumb. So I'm sure he's been hearing other things too, like almost like he's hearing stories in a way that's probably not favoring his mom right now. And that's why she was like, we have nothing to be ashamed of. Like, because again, it goes back to where she was saying, people talk, everybody knows who she is, who her father was. I'm sure the stories of her and Blackthorn have been carried around a little bit. And there's no telling what other stories. So yeah, he's young. Unfortunately, he's not seeing the world the way it is. He's seeing it the way I think he's being guided right now, not by his mom, but by others.
Oh yeah, could be some outside forces whispering into his ear. Who knows? And again, I definitely do want to point out, as Michael Lockhart points out as well. He is a 14-year-old kid at the end of the day, so we do definitely have to take that into account, which is very true. And at least he was there for the suicide. True. When we do get to the scene later on with Mariko, he is at least there to kind of see his mother off. So that is true. And I think Nagakato has officially got a new name. It is Avocado now. I like it. Typical teenage behavior. They become the pain in the neck around that age. That's exactly the stage Mariko's son is currently in. Absolutely, that's a good point as well. A 14-year-old kid starting to get into that kind of rebellious phase, and even back in feudal Japan, at the end of the day, humans, human nature is very similar. where even kids are kids at the end of the day. So yeah, I imagine even in an era like this where there's so much discipline and in just about every aspect of everyday life, he's still a kid at the end of the day. And 14 years old is that kind of rebellious phase where you're starting to feel like you're not a kid anymore. You don't need your parents as much anymore. So that's a very good point as well.
Yeah, at least he didn't
14
kill
years
somebody's emissary with a cannon.
This
Yeah,
is true.
right.
At least he didn't start a freaking war. Yeah.
Oh god.
14 years old, bribed with chocolate. He deserves a backhand, yes, but the whole thing is realistic enough. Again, that's a very good point as well. It's kind of that realism where this is a kid kind of trapped, stuck into this very volatile situation with both of his parents. I mean, in this, on the brink of war, his mother about to potentially be on the brink of death. That's kind of, it's heavy for a 14-year-old kid to handle. So, yeah. And yeah, he's young, dumb, and full of coom. Also, he's been away from his mother for a year, maybe. Yes, yeah, he's been away from Mariko for quite a while. So that is true as well. This scene with her son is heartbreaking for me because he seemed closer to Mariko than Buntaro. He had dinner, was laughing with her, and he begged her to stay with her when Toranaga's party left Osaka. That's a very good point as well, and I almost forgot about that for a minute there. We saw a little bit. We haven't seen a whole lot of scenes with the son, but we have seen a few, enough to get a little bit of an idea of what his home life might have been like. And yes, it seems like Buntaro was kind of very cold with him, trying to get him to, grow up and be a man. Typical kind of samurai father behavior, I guess. Then, yeah, we saw how Mariko was acting with him, which is just the polar opposite, where, like you said, they're cracking jokes together, they're eating dinner together. He had a much closer relationship with his mother. So I wouldn't be surprised if part of him does kind of maybe feel a little bit betrayed by her in a way, seeing the course, the path that she is going down, not fully understanding what she's trying to accomplish. But that is a very good point as well. Very good point. You guys always bring the best points. That's why I love doing these streams. You guys absolutely kill it with the suggestions.
He was the mirror image of his father's son in this moment. He literally mirrored his father in this moment, because that's how Buntaro would talk to her about dishonor and disgrace, and he definitely became his father in this moment.
And maybe that's part of why he was receiving Mariko in this fashion, because he was seeing Mariko kind of turn into Buntaro, where usually she's much more, warmer with him. So maybe he kind of saw a different side to her, and it's just, again, reacted to it. He is a kid at the end of the day, so there is that. At first, I agreed with Ochiba about how if you're dead, you can't protect your kid. But then I realized through her death, she'll bring a better Japan for her son. This is true as well. Yeah, we do get that scene between Ochiba and Mariko. And Ochiba brings that very thing up there. She says, how exactly does, slicing open your belly help your kid in any way? But at the end of the day, if she's trying to create, like you said, a better Japan for not only her kid, but multiple generations that are going to come, there is that to it as well. But yeah, I believe she says that. Yeah, tell me how will piercing your heart protect your son? So yeah, it's a good point. Very good point, Dracula. Indeed. I wouldn't be surprised if he was instructed to say even that last bit as a means of appeal to Mariko's emotions and dissuade her from leaving. Interesting. Yeah, we have no idea what happens off screen, what kind of scenes happen off camera that we don't see. And I know quite a few of you were suggesting that maybe there were some outside forces whispering into her son's ear, maybe influencing him a little bit, which is a theme we have seen play throughout the show multiple times. We see Omi constantly whispering into the ear of Toranaga's son, influencing his decisions. So yeah, who knows? Who knows what was going on off camera? Who knows? But let's get back into this thing here, shall we? It was pretty interesting to see the beginning of the episode. We get that flashback to 14 years ago, and it seems like this is not long after her father's, the death of her father and her entire family. And as we hear it mentioned even in this scene, that although her husband spared her, she still wants death in the name, in the honor of her family's memory. And here we get the origins of Mariko converting to Catholicism. Of course, she didn't grow up Catholic as a child by any means. She came into Catholicism much later on in life, and here we see Father Martin himself is actually the one who kind of brings her under the Catholic Church here. And again, I think Mariko, she was at this point in her life, she's at an all-time low. She's in a marriage that she doesn't want to be in, a loveless marriage, that she feels isn't going to go anywhere. And then, of course, all she has on her mind is the death of her father and her entire family. And at this point, still thinking that her father just abandoned her to marry Buntaro. So she's really at a low point here in this moment. So, Father Martin comes in, sees how she's grieving, and kind of, offers her a chance at healing some of that grief through the church. So we see Mariko's origins as a Catholic here, which is pretty interesting.
She's pregnant here too, right?
Mhm.
Yes, it looks like she's pregnant here too. Yes.
Yeah.
See her
So
holding
she
her belly.
really, I don't know when her and Buntaro had fond memories. She seems like, oh man, yeah, she was not very good. And then I'm wondering what the priest is going to do now, because they were close. Like the way they played this episode made me think that he's not going to be happy.
I don't think he will be either. And I think even if the bishop hasn't really picked up on it yet, I definitely think at this point, Father Martin is starting to realize that that Toranaga is by far the better ally to have for the church than Ishido and Ochiba. And again, I know we've said it time and time again, but we've seen how much disdain Ochiba has for the church. So I think even if the bishop hasn't realized it yet, it seems like Father Martin is realizing that Toranaga is the more righteous side to be on at this point. And yeah, after the death of Mariko, I imagine that's only going to make him dislike Ishido that much more. So that's a good point. It seems like Father Martin and Mariko had a very close bond between the two.
Yeah, that scene was funny. I recognized it from the trailer, where the dialogue from the trailer was when they were still down at the bottom of the steps. When they were up here, like, this wasn't even there. I was like, you turkeys.
Yeah. Yeah, the trailers like to do that every once in a while, where we'll see dialogue be placed on a certain scene in a trailer, and then when the actual episode comes around, the dialogue is in a totally different spot from what we see in the trailer. It's
Dude,
a
they
little bit of
played
misdirect.
these awesome though, because even there was so much even in this trailer where I was like, man, and Raven, you're right, man, they get us every time, because I was so surprised at everything. I was like, man, no, nothing I thought was gonna happen.
Yeah, they do. It's really good stuff. If you look closely, all these samurai guards and ladies in waiting left them alone to talk. Nobody else was there to listen to what they were saying. Yeah. Oh yeah, when it came to Ochiba and Mariko's conversation, yeah, we see everybody kind of clear out, and it's just them two talking. And Ochiba kind of reveals to Blackthorn in that scene the history that Mariko and Ochiba have, how they were, as she describes it, like sisters at one point. Mariko was her quote unquote everything, even though their fathers were enemies or ended up becoming enemies. So that's a good point.
I love that scene too. I mean, this is another one, and Ochiba in this one, she wasn't the evil, like web weaving, like like when she's dealing with Ishido, she has contempt. You could tell that she has contempt for all those guys on the Council of Regents. She has contempt for every one of them are lower than her. But man, in this one, I felt she had more chemistry. She had more chemistry with Mariko than another person who has more chemistry with Mariko than Blackthorn does. She looked like she was really hurt. It looked like it really pained her to tell these things. And she was talking about a friend. She was talking about someone she loved. It wasn't a rival. She wasn't thinking, or she wasn't dehumanizing, a rival. It was that she's looking back fondly. I don't think it was necessarily all manipulation. I mean, I think there was a very strong thread of truth running through all of those stories that she was telling, in sincerity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good scene. Because,
it was.
I mean, because she, even like Mariko telling Blackthorn, basically this is a ruse for her to get to me. Like, she's needing to have a conversation with me, and this is the way we're gonna have to do this. So
Yep.
we're gonna make it out. Because like basically, with the air just walks away. Blackthorn's like, what? He's like, wait a minute, what am I even doing here?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, but between
The heir wants to talk with the barbarian. Bullshit.
Right. And he wasn't doing shit. He was stacking rocks over in the garden.
Right?
Stacking rocks and shit, yeah.
He was playing with his pet rocks.
Playing with his rocks. And yeah, as we needed a translator, I asked you to come. Yeah, wink, wink. Sure you did. Sure you did. But no, that was a pretty funny scene. And again, I like the little moments of levity that we get throughout these episodes as well, where for the most part, Shogun has had a very kind of serious tone to it, which I do appreciate. But I do love the small little moments of levity that we get every once in a while, these little comedic timeouts. Usually with Yabushigi, who I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about tonight as well.
Oh my god.
Putin's Cat says, in the 1980s version, Motaro kept Mariko in Hokkaido region for a long time. She told Blackthorn that it was so cold there. Indeed. Mariko is the naive, honest. Martin is the naive, honest priest trying to do the right thing, or at least doing the best despite all the dirty work and ties with the Portuguese crown. I love that not all Catholics are corrupt, and that's another thing that they do try to portray here on the show, where there's good and evil on both sides. So there's not just one side that is set evil and one side that is just set good. There tends to be good and evil on both sides of every war, that has ever been fought, in the words of the immortal Jorah Mormont from Game of Thrones, which is totally true. I mean, war is never black and white. It is fought mostly it is fought in shades of gray. Which we will definitely see in House of the Dragon Season 2 when that comes back around. Just about all of those characters are gray. There's not very good or evil characters in that show. Everyone's pretty gray. But yeah, you do appreciate that throughout everything that's happening here. Father Martin, he does seem to be one of the more reasonable voices in a chaotic place. There's all this chaos going on, but Father Martin tends to have a pretty down-to-earth, reasonable take on things. And you can tell that he's by no means, kind of scheming as much as the bishop is, I would say. At least not anymore. You definitely get a sense that Father Martin does kind of want, at least at the very least, he really wants Mariko to be safe. You really see the bond there between those two.
And it's honestly, it's a relief because, when religious figures of any kind are portrayed, generally it's always with the cynical eye towards something that they're doing underhanded, or, they're not what they appear, blah, blah, blah. This guy, I mean, like Henry's saying, he's an idealist. People might call him naive, but I still think that there is such a thing as a true believer. I mean, especially in the clergy, you can be a true believer. You can believe that you are doing the right thing and not have interest in the backstabbing and skullduggery and stuff, even when you're placed in these environments. Or sometimes you just throw your hands up and let the people that are interested in it take care of that side of it, and you focus on your work one-to-one, like he is doing with Mariko, and probably, I would guess, probably other people as well. It's just, focusing on his pastoral duties as a pastor. It can be done.
It can be. It really can be done. And I do agree with this. Ochiba's death look at Sakai was some fire acting. That was a really good scene where we see Ochiba just staring daggers up at Sakai in that one scene there. And if nothing else, that scene definitely started to show a little bit of the discontent that is growing within the Council of Regions, which of course was part of their plan as well. But yeah, that was a really good scene where we see, Ochiba just start to stare daggers up at Sakai in that moment when he was like, "Oh, that's a bit much, isn't it?" No, that is not a bit much. Ochiba knows Mariko better than anyone, and Ochiba knows Mariko will do what she says. If she says she's going to kill herself, she will kill herself. Yep. And I love where Ishido goes, "What is your counsel, Lady Ochiba?" She's like, "I got no counsel for you, Lord Ishido. You let her go. All it's going to do is spur the other hostages to want their freedom as well. But if you kill her, you can end up facing a full-on revolt within the city." So, again, Mariko's plan, or Toranaga's plan here, was brilliantly thought out.
And I loved it. I appreciated the exposition. I mean, sometimes I'm a dummy. Sometimes I don't pick up everything, and it was so nice of them. And Jeremy just dropped, but he'll be back. But yeah, it was so cool that they just laid that out for us, the watcher, in straight up exposition. This is a damned if you're damned if you do,
Yep.
damned if you don't situation. And here's exactly what they're doing. And there isn't, again, yet another time when they're telling Ishido there isn't jack shit you can do about it, because this is exactly what they're planning. Although, as we will see in a minute, thank the writers, thank these guys, that even Ishido, he should just be, he could be a two-dimensional cookie cutter villain, always bad, always always like the coyote walking into the roadrunner's traps, always getting messed up. But he's thinking too, again, these are all ambitious people. You could tell the same story from the Ishido side that we have from the that we're getting from the Toranaga side, and Ishido would be the hero and Toranaga would be the villain. So and we're going to see in a little bit where this comes through. These guys have their own goals. They actually have intelligence and do things very manipulatively, beautifully. And guess what? Sometimes the smartest guy in the room gets tricked because they're accustomed to being the smartest guy in the room. And we're going to see it in a little bit. Ooh.
Yeah, it's I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And definitely let us know, as we go through the stream as well, in the chat, let us know what some of your favorite scenes from the episode were. What scenes stood out to you guys the most? What scenes do you kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into? Like this, for instance, right here. Presuming Mariko is truly dead, to what extent will her death affect Blackthorn character-wise? Now, knowing what I know from the books, I have an idea of what I think is going to happen in the final episode, especially after seeing the episode 10 trailer. But overall, I definitely think it's going to have a negative effect on Blackthorn. It seems like, obviously, we've been seeing this budding romance, spring up from Blackthorn and Mariko all season. Although I feel the actors involved don't have the best on-screen chemistry. You definitely can still tell that they very much care for each other. And in this episode in particular, they became, closer than ever before with, bumping uglies between Mariko and Blackthorn bumping uglies there at the end of the episode. So I definitely think it's going to have a negative effect on Blackthorn's character. And I do think it could potentially, again, without spoiling anything, I do think it could potentially make him act a little bit rash in this next episode and might have some consequences, to say the least. What about you guys? Where do you think Blackthorn is heading now that Mariko is gone?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping he's going to go after, oh, damn, now I forgot his name.
Ishido?
Yoshi, or Yo.
Ishido?
Yeah. Because, I mean, the way he did at the end of that episode, man, I'm hoping he takes his rage out on one of these guys and just seriously goes and, doesn't even listen to Toranaga a little bit. He just, or maybe Toranaga finally lets, Blackthorn be unleashed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be the one to call out Yabushigi. I think he's going to be the one who's like, something's up with you. Something's up with you. The way you acted that night and things that I think because I remember a scene in the trailer where it looked like he was getting kind of taken or something. I think it's going to be Blackthorn that calls him out.
Interesting. Yeah, because Blackthorn would have more reason than just about anyone else to call Yabushigi out. He was there in the room. He saw what happened. Blackthorn is pleading for Yabushigi to get over there and help him move these crates so they can hopefully absorb some of the blast of this explosion, barricade the door a little bit. And yeah, we see Yabushigi again, just glued to the freaking wall, not willing to move at all, so scared, probably pissing his kimono. It's Blackthorn has a little bit more reason to call him out than anyone else. And I do apologize, Seamus, you are absolutely right. Shame on me. They pillowed. They did not bump ugly. So you're right. Shame on me.
the shade bell.
Get the shade bell.
Yay!
Shame on me, indeed.
But Blackthorn is definitely going to he's going to require some kind of vengeance. A guy like that, I mean, he's not a complex guy. He's very simple in his goals and motives, I would say. So he's going to have to find. He's going to identify who to blame, and then God help that person. Whether it's whether he holds Toranaga responsible for orchestrating the whole thing, whether he does turn around and point it at Yabushigi for kind of sandbagging him on that thing. Now, will he interpret the sandbagging as actually being rooted to the floor in fear up against the wall, or will he sniff out the the previous betrayal that Yabushigi's done?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. How will he view it? Will he sniff out the, like you said, the betrayal, or is he just going to think Yabushigi is a coward in this moment? Because up until this point, Blackthorn definitely had Blackthorn definitely had some respect for Yabushigi, and we hear that explained from Blackthorn in the previous episode when he first comes to Yabushigi offering to sail for him, where he brings up the very first episode again, where Yabushigi and Blackthorn really kind of first met on that cliff top, where Yabushigi kind of took his fate into his own hands and refused to drown, pulls out his sword, and is ready to end his own life. And at that point, you can definitely see a little bit of a, respect was built up between Blackthorn and Yabushigi, where Blackthorn, at the very least, knows that this guy is a man that is willing to take fate into his own hands. So yeah, I mean, I imagine this is definitely going to shatter his image on Yabushigi, if nothing else. He thought that Yabushigi was brave, and seeing this is quite the opposite, where he's glued to the freaking wall there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Blackthorn handles everything. And like you said, I imagine there's going to be a good, a small degree of Blackthorn taking this out on Toranaga as well, because Blackthorn has clearly voiced his displeasure with Toranaga sending Mariko to Osaka to begin with. He has tried to get Mariko to not go to Osaka for the last few episodes. So I have a feeling some of the blame will land at Toranaga's feet, some of it will land at Yabushigi's feet, and a lot of it will land at Ishido's feet as well. A lot of blame to go around here for Mariko's death.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt a lot of their relationships for such as they are that he has there. I would have seen, he was already lukewarm and kind of wanting to leave Japan. I could honestly see him, if we didn't know what was going to happen next, and I don't know what's going to happen next, but I could see, with this going on, he might just say, you know what, keep this damned island to yourselves. I just want to go home. Give me my ship back and let me go.
Yeah, that's very true. He was kind of on the brink of leaving just a few episodes ago, where he felt like there was just nothing here for him. He felt like there was probably no future for him in Mariko. And he kind of just wanted to beat feet at that point, grab his ship, grab his crew, and leave. And then, unfortunately, we get that scene a few episodes later when he does finally reunite with his crew, and it's not the reunion that he was expecting, I think, at the very least. And I really did enjoy that scene where Blackthorn kind of comes to the realization where he spent so much time here in Japan among these people, learning their customs and language and everything, that he feels like his own people now feel foreign to him. Yet at the same time, he also knows he'll never fully be accepted here in Japan. So I really enjoyed that scene, because you really see the Blackthorn's realization where he feels like he just isn't at home anywhere, maybe other than at sea. So, very good points. I have never loved a bad guy as much as I loved Yabushigi. I love him more than I love his character, more than I love Loki. Interesting, says Hand-Drawn Life. Yeah, and I like I said, I got to agree. I have been praising Tatanabu Asano's performance as Yabushigi all season. I feel like he's been one of the best actors on the series, bar none. His performances are absolutely phenomenal. And I love this one scene that we get with Yabushigi, Blackthorn, and Mariko a little bit earlier on, when Yabushigi is trying to figure out what Mariko's plan is. And where is it? Some really good, funny dialogue. And again, some good moments of levity here, which I do like to see in the episode every once in a while. Here it is. He tells Mariko, this is, of course, takes place right after Mariko meets with Ishido, and all of the stage is set pretty much. where Yabashigi calls her right. He's like, you know exactly what you were doing in that room. What are Toranaga's plans? But I love this. He starts getting all suspicious. He's like, I suppose this one's even a part of it. You really start to see the paranoia on Yabashigi's face. And the comedic bitterness as well, where he even makes fun of Mariko's poem. A leafless branch? What a terrible poem. Who writes about leafless branches in the spring? I love the facial expressions on his. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but the way that some of these characters emote, the way that some of these characters are capable of displaying such a wide range of facial expressions that display so much stuff that sometimes one look is worth more than 2 lines of dialogue. And I just love if you go back and watch this scene in particular, anytime you guys go back and watch this episode, pay attention to Yabashigi's facial expressions in this scene in particular. It is absolutely hilarious, this scene. And again, I love the comedic moments, and I can't speak highly enough to Tatenobu Asano's performance as Yabashigi. Even though Yabashigi is very much a villain and has done some pretty despicable things, I'm right there with you, Hand Drawn Life. I can't help but really like his character nonetheless. The guy is just so good in this role.
Right. And when everybody's dancing around each other, like speaking in very flowery terms, I mean, it's funny that he's just like laying it out there. It's like, what the hell were you thinking? It's refreshing to see somebody just really lose it. Especially with Mariko, because she is the lady, and in those strict environments, everybody treats her as such. Nobody's going to contradict her. No, she's like, my family has been samurai for 1,000 years. Well, if it's 1600, that would have been 600. I don't know if there were samurai. I mean, they were roving bands or whatever. I guess they had unified under an emperor, but just barely. That was kind of fresh. So, but nobody's going to call her out and say, nobody's going to put their, they didn't have glasses, so they couldn't push their glasses up on their nose and go, well, actually, it wasn't actually 1,000 years.
Good point. And I do just want to address this real quick for anybody else who was wondering in the chat as well. As Divine Chakra says, sorry, a bit out of context, and absolutely never apologize. You guys are welcome to ask anything you want here in this chat. But I haven't read the source material for this story, and I really want to know how many seasons this show could go covering the entire story. Unfortunately, it looks like there is only going to be this one season. Now, this is based on the Shogun book, which is a pretty lengthy book. And I imagine if they really wanted to stretch this thing out, they could have probably told the story over the course of 3 different seasons, maybe. But at this point, that ship has already sailed. They have already covered pretty much the entirety of the whole book. In this one, we have 1 episode left, episode 10. That will be the last episode of Shogun. And unfortunately, it looks like we will probably not be getting a season 2. It looks like this is just going to be a one and done miniseries. And I feel like there's gives and takes for that as well. On one hand, I really enjoy the commitment to just telling a 1-season story, getting a phenomenal story, beginning, middle, and end, all in 1 season. On one hand, I really enjoy and respect that. But on the other hand, the fan in me would love to get more seasons of this show, just because I've just really been fallen in love with the cast, the characters, the writing, the dialogue, the set design, the costumes, everything that goes into making the show what it is. The fan in me would love to see this thing continue and get multiple seasons, but based on the source material, it looks like this is only going to be a one and done season. But there is other books in the series. The Asian Saga from James Clavell is a 6-book series, and each book tells a story in a different time period in Asian history. So although we might not get a season 2 with this cast and characters, we could potentially get an adaptation of one of the other James Clavell novels that is set in a different time period, and I really hope we at least get that. But yeah, it looks like 1 season. 1 season and done. But back to Yabashigi. Yabashigi shouted, that blast will kill us, and refused to help. Since the door gets blown, Mariko can't be captured, and he could play both sides to the end. He does kind of find a way, he tends to find a way to position himself, right there in that middle, being able to kind of play both sides a lot. But I don't know. I get the feeling that Yabushigi's luck could potentially be coming to an end over this next episode.
And
But
didn't he
again,
run into the room saying, "Oh, Ishido, he's coming for it." Stop! Like he ran in the room like a little coward and was like,
yeah,
"Oh, I don't know what's going
they're
on."
inside the castle. Yeah, it's like bullshit. You know they're inside the castle, asshole. You let them in.
You let
What are you
Ray say,
talking about?
"Oh, something. What's happening? I don't
What are you
know."
talking about?
I
You know
love
exactly
that.
what's
Yeah,
going on.
that
You
was so
orchestrated this.
perfect. Yeah, that was so funny. Yeah.
What
And yeah, let's. I
what
guess we
they're
can talk a
here?
little
I
bit.
didn't know about this.
Yeah, it's just a big surprise to me. I totally didn't open that gate for him. And yeah, I guess we can talk a little bit about that right now, I guess, because we do see a scene earlier in the episode where Yabushiri, of course, he wanted to get back on Ishido's better side. We saw him send one of his most trusted men to Osaka to try and repair the relationship between Yabushiri and Ishido, only to have that man's head ceremoniously sent back to him with a very resounding no. But here in this episode, we see Yabushigi's fortunes start to change a little bit, where Shido reaches out to Yabushigi through his servant, by the looks of it, and lets Yabushigi know that there is a chance for him to avoid death, but there's something that he's going to have to do first. And of course, that something is let the gates open so the shinobi assassins can come in and kill Mariko. But yeah, this was a really good scene, and man, you just see Yabushigi just shanking this poor dude. Here, go ahead, have a drink. Shank, shank, shank.
And acting all drunk, like he was just, oh, hey, you want some, man? I'm having a good time. It's fine.
Yeah,
There you go. Don't look at my knife.
yeah. Don't look at my knife. It was a good scene. It was a good scene.
Yeah. Now I'm having there's two two different versions that we're seeing, and I love it, and I'm thanking you guys in the chat because sometimes two people are looking at the exact same scenes, the exact same scenarios, and seeing two entirely different things behind it. In the chat, I've heard that this is Ishido celebrating his victory and then bringing the shinobi in to essentially frame Toranaga. The way I saw it was almost this whole shinobi plot came as a result of Ochiba telling Ishido that, that he is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If they keep her, then she's a hostage. If they kill her, then then the nobles of Osaka are going to turn on him. This is kind of a neat and tidy way. And Kai had mentioned, we were joking about it. Anybody that goes out 100 feet outside of Osaka Castle ends up getting hit by quote unquote bandits. But I think this was him pivoting, but he was doing it again. He's not a cookie cutter villain with dumb plans.
Yeah.
He knew that he couldn't, do anything with Mariko, but he also needed her out of the way. So hatching this thing, and the screenshot that I sent you was actually in right before this, where he said those hens have unearthed all the sake in the castle. Well, essentially. Yeah, it's probably way late because we don't use the same naming signature on the, but it might be towards the end. But essentially, that's what he does. He says, the hens have unearthed all the sake in the castle because they were celebrating Mariko getting her permit to leave, and everybody else, anybody else who wants a permit, just submit for the permits and you'll be getting them. That whole thing. And then all the hens were Mariko and all the people who knew that they're going to be able to leave the next day. Of course, Ishido wasn't going to allow that, and they didn't just unearth that sake. And that's what made me laugh, because I was thinking, historically, that has been done from the Greeks at Troy to George Washington at Trenton to the Tet offensive in 1968. You act like you're not winning. Everybody's, schedule your attack for a party. Trenton was at Christmas. Tet was the a holiday for the Vietnamese. Everybody's either on leave, everybody's drunk. The hens magically unearthed all this liquor. They're partying down. Yeah. Well, all the people that are going to be accompanying the hens are partying down, and then everybody's sawing logs after the party. There's sound asleep, and he just kind of greases skids for his shinobi to do the, everybody's off their guard, everybody's relaxed, everybody's asleep, drunk, passed out, and then here come the shinobi to just slaughter everybody. And again, it was a dark scene, so I was wondering who all the people were that they were killing. But no, yeah, it was going to be everybody who was going to be splitting the next day with Mariko, and it was going to be Mariko too. And they did get a few kills on the shinobi. That's what I even allowed for that. She didn't get her girl boss moment when she was doing the 11-on-1, which is again beautiful and wonderful. But they did end up killing a handful of shinobis, and they showed Blackthorn reloading his pistol.
Yes,
that was so good.
It was nice. They didn't show the whole amount of time, but also it wasn't firing off every second like a revolver. So again, good job.
He used it. He was like hitting him in the head with it, and just he was using the pistol in more than just one way. So it was a really good scene.
It was good. He was very effective in that moment. And I love seeing, Blackthorn kind of sticking to what he's used to. Although he is, officially a Hatamoto now, he does have his own swords. He knows that he's not very well adept at fighting with a katana. So I love him. Yeah, he makes really good use of the pistols in that final scene. And we're going to dive into that final scene here in a second. But as Michael Lockhart points out, time for another will, which again has been just a phenomenal theme spread throughout the season, with Yabushiki constantly rewriting new wills. Good stuff. Good stuff. I saw a scene that I am not finding now, but
I think this last will is going to be a keeper, though. I don't think he's got. I think he ran out of his 9 lives.
Might be the final one, indeed. Final will and testament.
You might want to make this one the right one.
Yeah, make sure you get this one right, because you might not get a chance to write another. Kai says a plausible scenario: kidnap the Mariko, but no VIPs are to be harmed, shown on screen. Maybe remove them from the castle, make it look like they left in the night and got caught by bandits outside. I mean, if you were looking for plausible deniability, and if you were looking to not leave a trail, that could potentially be an option. Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
But didn't the shinobi, when they went into one of the rooms, I think they saw one of Toranaga's wives sleeping, and they didn't harm her.
Yeah, I thought they were just trying to get Mariko out of the
It seems like they were just
trying to make it look like she left. Now, I don't know if they were going to kill her or not, like somewhere outside the castle.
Yeah, it's not quite clear. I don't have the still on here, but that was very interesting. It was like, are they here just for Mariko, or are they here for more than that? Because on that one scene, when Yabushiki comes into the room, there's just a whole room of people dead on the floor. So they certainly killed a lot of people once they were finally in the confines, but I get the feeling Mariko was their main target. But again, I mean, I just don't get Ishido's thinking here. Ishido has to know that if Mariko dies here in this scene, if he successfully sends assassins after her, he must know that is going to reflect poorly on the morale of the city. This was pretty much everything that Ishido was trying to avoid. He had pretty much 2 options: either kill Mariko and make her become a martyr and potentially face revolt, or just let her go, and with the added side effect of probably the other hostages asking to leave as well. And that definitely seems like the lesser of the 2 evils if I was Ishido anyway, and it was a choice between having an entire city revolt against you or losing your hostages. Definitely I'm giving up the hostages 9 times out of 10. So it just, Ishido sending these assassins after Mariko, if their goal was to absolutely kill her, which it kind of looked like it was in some spots. It just, again, I mean, it's going to have that same desired effect as if he would have just executed her in that courtyard. So Mariko's death is definitely going to turn a lot of people against Ishido, I have a feeling, in this final episode. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, the choreography, great. I really enjoyed this this escape scene. It definitely had that sense of urgency behind it, which I really enjoy in scenes like this. Sometimes you'll see scenes like this, and out of nowhere, you'll get this long, kind of drawn-out fight scene while characters are literally on the run that just makes no sense. So I really love you get the nice sense of urgency. They know what they need to do, and they went out and did it. And again, Blackthorn just showing
Yes.
his skill.
Well, he
with the
like
pistol.
punched through the wall and like
That
grabbed the
was
dude and
love
shot
that.
him. It was like, yes.
I love
He's like, Mariko's
that.
like, listen. And he's all like, all right,
Double
I hear you.
That was so good. Now, first he shoots a hole through it, which clearly takes out one dude. You hear the dude grunt and then fall. And then, he runs right up to it, sticks his arm through the hole, holds onto the guy, and makes sure that it's a freaking headshot. I loved that scene. He was really good in this scene, Blackthorn. His bravery really stepped up.
Because I'm like, dude, you like, there another guy behind there you don't know about? Like, you just reaching in there, like you can't.
Put your hand out there. You're expecting it to get chopped off by some katana. I would never in a million years stick my hand through that hole. What are you thinking, Blackthorn?
He's gonna pull it
Trying to
out.
get it
I got
chopped
a
off?
bloody arm off.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you know the opponent that you're fighting fights with bladed weapons. They don't fight with pistols. So yeah, that would be literally. It's like you're sticking your hand into the viper's pit at that point. No way would I stick my hand in that freaking hole. But you got lucky.
Just a flesh
You got very
wound.
lucky. Just a flesh wound. Yeah, just a mere flesh wound.
But then just knowing they're trying to find somewhere safe to go, they're like, no, we can't leave. But there's like nowhere that's truly secure because the walls are so thin and everything. Like it was, I don't know, man, that was crazy.
Yeah,
They really they got the dudes just kept coming. Like I don't know how many assassins there were, but there was quite a few.
there was quite a few. There was when we see Yabushiki open that gate, it looks like quite a few pile in. At least a dozen, maybe even more.
I like how that lead dude was keeping count with this on his shoulder, tapping out as the guys went through. And
Yeah,
maybe how much time, I don't know if it was the number of guys going through or how much time had passed between different waves.
Send in the new crew, because it seemed like he
Yeah.
was waiting. It seemed like a few guys went in. He waited a little while and then sent the rest of the guys in. At least that's what it looked like anyway. But yeah, it was a good scene, man. It was a very good sequence. And I know a lot of people were, not a lot of people, but I know some people were, hankering for some good action. I mean, up until this point, there hasn't been a whole lot of big fight scenes and spectacle and all that. And I don't think the show needs it by any means. This isn't really that kind of show that leans heavily on spectacle. It is definitely a character piece. It's a historic piece. It's a time correct piece. And it doesn't really need a lot of big action scenes to keep the story compelling. At least it didn't for me. And I know a lot of you guys kind of feel the same way as well, where at times we didn't even really notice the lack of action. But I have noticed a few people in the comment sections, they were really looking forward to getting some good action. So hopefully this scene left people who were looking for action a little bit satisfied, because we did get some decent action scenes in this episode.
Yeah. I think I was getting upset because they kept kind of sort of teasing us with these battles, almost like these huge battles, and then that fell short, and it was kind of like, man, it made you think you're going to get this action that was never going to be there. But all the other stuff in this show, is so good. Everything else is like perfect.
It was. It's been. I mean, it's just been a treat to watch a show with characters like this, with a story like this, set in a world and a setting like this that has been portrayed as accurately, if not more accurately, than any other version of feudal Japan I've ever seen on screen. It's refreshing to get a really phenomenal series like this come around every once in a while. And I know recently, actually, IGN actually came out with an article comparing Shogun to Game of Thrones, and said Shogun completely surpassed Game of Thrones. And while I absolutely love Shogun, I am loving everything that Shogun is doing. It is a phenomenal season. I think it's a little, it's kind of a false comparison when you're comparing one season of Shogun that hasn't even aired its finale yet. We haven't even seen the final episode yet, to the absolutely mammoth that is Game of Thrones. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Loving Shogun, but let's not jump the shark there, IGN. Let's not jump the shark.
No, but I'm glad that you convinced me and Scarlett to watch this because you were really like, no, you guys got to check this out, watch
I'm
it,
glad you did.
and then me and Scarlett were just like, damn it, he got us. We're friggin' hooked.
I know, dude. Because I was worried about the subtitles. I really was. And honestly,
Yeah.
like, because the way I'm watching, like you sit down, you truly focus kind of on it. You take, time to really watch it. The subtitles don't bother me, as like really at all.
Me neither. Yep. Same.
I mean, you do got to focus a little bit, but it's really not
definitely
bad.
a different viewing experience, but it's not bad by any means, and it certainly doesn't take me out of the story. I know some people have trouble with subtitles, constantly having to look down to read and then look back up at the scene. I guess at this point, I've just watched so many movies and TV series from foreign audiences, whether it's Korean cinema, Japanese cinema. I mean, Dana and I are huge fans of Kingdom on Netflix, the Korean Netflix zombie drama. Just the best zombie show I've ever seen in my life. But at this point, I've watched so many shows and movies with subtitles that I'm 100% used to it. It's not even a bother in the slightest for me. But I know it can be, kind of distracting for other people who haven't really maybe watched that many subtitled shows or movies. Totally understand that. And hopefully they'll come out with a dubbed version at one point. I know we were hoping that there was going to be a dubbed version on Hulu. I think they eventually did come out with one, right? At first it was just that kind of commentary thing, but now at least there's a proper dubbed version that people can go and watch. If the subtitles aren't to your liking and you prefer a dub, at least that's available now. So that's good. That is good. Nobody would slash without visibility confirming who they might be cutting into. That was their advantage and why Blackthorn managed to get away with what he did. The shinobi can't harm any VIP. Now that's a good point, Kai. Yeah, maybe they can't just needlessly, swing the katana any way they want. There's certain highborns that they probably aren't allowed to harm. So that's a good point. Very good point. It's still a ballsy move. It's still something I would never in a million years do. And Blackthorn in that moment, there's no way he would have known that's the case.
Right. I was wondering,
all Blackthorn is seeing is what he thinks is assassins coming to kill everybody. So he doesn't really know that. So for him to stick his hand in that hole is pretty ballsy. It's pretty ballsy. I watched the show reading the subs, then rewatch it for the show. Now, I have seen actually a few people do that as well, where they'll watch the episode one time, really focusing in on the subtitles, and then for their second watch, they'll focus a little bit more on, just everything else in the background and the actual show itself. And that's a good way to do it. You pay attention very closely to the subtitles on the first go around. You tend to maybe miss a thing or two that happens in the background. So a show like this is always really good for a second viewing where you can kind of focus a little bit more on background aesthetics and not have to read every single line the second go around. So that's a good idea, Seamus. I like that. Brian watched the dubbed version while doing chores. Awesome. Now, I would be interested to know, because I had known absolutely nothing about the dubbed version. I wonder how the dubbed sounds. And who, because we have seen a lot of dubs over the years, especially with Netflix. Sometimes their dubs are hit or miss. Like Kingdom, for instance. Kingdom has a dubbed version and a subtitle version, but Kingdom's dubbed version is actually really good. The voice actors that they have doing the dubbing fit the characters so well, where sometimes some of Netflix's dubs can be a little bit dodgy, to say the least, where it just the character's voice sounds absolutely nothing what you think they would sound like. So I'd be very interested to see how this dub sounds, if it sounds pretty accurate or realistic. And Brian says it's really not bad. I'm gonna have to check it out. For sure. Did you hear more Yabu grunts in this dubbed version? Yes, that is a good point. I saw a lot of you guys bringing that up. That Yabushigi, he tends to grunt a lot, and again, he kind of just he emotes so well. Whether it's the facial expressions, the body language, the grunting, he just emotes so freaking well. It's a testament to how good of an actor I believe Tatenobu is. He's been one of my favorite performances, regardless of Yabushigi's actions, which I most certainly don't agree with Yabushigi's actions. I still can very much appreciate the character and the performance behind it. It was masterful. Absolutely masterful.
Yeah, I think Toranaga's not going to be happy. I mean, his kid was in that room, so even if whoever's, in there survived, they've got to take some kind of damage.
Yeah, how much damage will happen? I mean, we saw Mariko place herself at the door to hopefully absorb as much of the damage as she possibly can. But I mean, it looked like a pretty hefty explosion. I wouldn't be surprised if a few people inside did get a little bit of wood shrapnel or some kind of, injuries sustained.
Because we see what the next episode trailer, Yabashibi looks kind of messed up, and I assume it's because he got beat up after he got captured, but that could just maybe be sometime right after.
Yeah, it could be this. That's a good point. Yeah, man, I just can't believe we're getting down to only one episode left, guys. Just one episode left of Shogun. But definitely let us know in the chat what episode, or not what episode, what scene stood out to you guys the most in episode 9. If you guys had to pick one scene, which was your favorite scene? Now, for me, it's really hard to pick, but I really did enjoy the seppuku scene between Blackthorn and Mariko. And the reason for it is, again, up until this point, I feel like although it is a bit of a love story between Blackthorn and Mariko, the show hasn't really focused heavily on that aspect. It's much more a political maneuvering show as opposed to just being a love story. The love story definitely seems to be more of a side story within the show. But one thing I have noticed, again, I've said it multiple times, but the chemistry between Mariko and Blackthorn hasn't always been the best. I don't always get this really great feeling of this sordid, forbidden love affair between Blackthorn and Mariko. The chemistry just isn't always there in their scenes. But again, in this episode, this was the first episode that I really started to see some actual genuine chemistry between Blackthorn and Mariko in the scene, and I actually believed that they were in love with each other in this episode, where prior to this it just didn't come through as clear. And again, a lot of it has to do with the facial expressions, the body language, the dialogue, but something about this scene in particular, it just finally looked like Blackthorn and Mariko were actually, something, and there was actually some kind of chemistry there, where before, maybe it's just me, but it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of chemistry between the two. So I really enjoyed the seppuku scene, and the fact that Blackthorn stepped up in and of itself, which was incredibly.
Where was Kiyama?
Exactly. That's the thing. Kiyama was supposed to be her main second, and Kiyama clearly didn't show up, probably due to Ishido telling him not to. And Blackthorn sees this in this moment, and of course, Blackthorn knows that Mariko is a Catholic. She lives by the Catholic Church, and of course, suicide is the ultimate sin that will send you directly to hell if you believe in that faith. And Blackthorn sees that in this moment, and he says, put that from your mind. You're not going to go to hell. I will second you, which I imagine would have been one of the hardest things for him to do, especially not only with them, in the way that they feel for each other, but especially the night before they had, no, actually that happens after this. But yeah, you're starting to see the respect that Blackthorn holds for Mariko in the scene, where everything up until this point, it's been Blackthorn trying to stop Mariko from throwing her life away, where in this point he's kind of stepping up and giving her exactly what she needs in this moment, so she doesn't have to face that damnation. So this was just a great scene all in all.
Well, here's one for you and the chat and everybody else. Who would you want to second you, adult Blackthorn or little kid Toranaga?
Adult Blackthorn.
Yeah,
in this
one
scene,
strike, please.
Blackthorn finally at least learned how to hold a katana properly. If you see his hand placement, it's a little more accurate as to how you're supposed to hold a katana, as opposed to the way that he was holding it on the beach with Yabushige. So yeah, I would choose Blackthorn.
Yep, neat, quick. I don't want a kid hacking at my head.
Yeah, just the strength alone, the fact that he's going to be taller and be able to really strike down properly, as opposed, I don't know. Yeah, I go Blackthorn.
As opposed to the 13 cuts that Toranaga.
Like we're not carving a turkey. Like,
Right, but
and
didn't she say
clean
like
slate,
don't
please.
swing till I hit the ground or something? Don't swing till I
She did
Kind of
say,
fall.
collapse.
yeah,
Yeah, or
don't
something like
swing
that.
until I fall. So
Yeah.
it seems like she wanted to wait until the very last possible moment for Blackthorn to bring the hammer down, as it were.
And they couldn't have got that much closer, Ishido, even if he had planned to do it. I mean, just a matter of seconds. She was
The
ready to go.
way he tells her to, like, he's a woman being, childish here. Just here's your papers. It's such a spectacle. Like,
What are we, jailers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we, jailers? Yes, you are jailers, you asshole. You're keeping everybody here freaking captive, and you know it. And I love that. Everyone just immediately starts asking to leave right after that. I love it. It was great.
And then we expect safe passage too, and he's just like, "Oh, apply for your whatever papers. Go."
Good stuff. Very good
But really,
stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed that scene
Ochiba
between those
said
two.
happened though. Like, she was just like, so he did both of what she said. He let them go, or let Mariko go, so everybody gets to go, but then tries to kill him. So he's like double bad. I don't get
Yeah,
his
did he
plan
try
here.
to kill him, or was he? Again, I know, and a lot of people think that these assassins weren't exactly trying to kill Mariko, but they were just trying to kidnap her, which I suppose is definitely possible. But it looks like the assassins were, there were quite a few attempts, a few shots that they threw towards Mariko's way that, if landed, probably would have killed her. And it seems like they certainly had no problem endangering her life when they blew open that door
Yeah, I was
there at
gonna
the
say
end.
they
So
didn't
if
care
their
about
goal
killing
was to
everybody in the
kidnap
room
her,
then.
well, that's the thing. If their goal was to kidnap her, then they executed it incredibly shitty. That's all I'll say. Yeah, mission failed, Shinobi. Mission failed. But what about you guys? Is there one scene in particular that sticks out to you in the entire episode? A scene that you maybe favor, or one that just sticks out in general?
I mean, really, that scene that we're talking about, really, that one, and then before, when she's talking to Ishido, and kind of and that whole scene where she's kind of telling them, I'm gonna leave, and she's even talking to Ochiba, and about the poem and stuff. Those two little portions to me were really good.
Yeah, this was a really interesting scene as well, where, Ishido is, expecting Mariko to probably bend to whatever he says, but Mariko is sticking to her guns here in this moment. And she's like, no, I'm leaving. Sorry, there's not going to be a poetry reading. I'm getting the frick out of here. You ain't keeping me here, son. So I appreciate her will in this moment where she is really kind of laying it down. And again, it's great theater at the end of the day, because Mariko knows she's not going to be allowed to leave. But the whole point of this entire ruse is so she can show to everybody else the tyrant that Ishido really is, and that he actually is keeping everybody here hostage. This wasn't about Mariko leaving as much as it was exposing Ishido to the rest of Osaka for the kind of a scumbag that he really is, and she did that successfully.
Yeah, this for me, actually, of all the things that happened in this episode, this was probably my favorite, just because she was operating within the rules, and and everybody present, they're bound by the same restrictions. If your liege lord tells you that, drop this message off and then return, you have to do that. And nobody's going to speak up. Nobody can say otherwise, because all of them are bound to it. Ishido's bound to it. If his boss tells him do this, he, you have to do that. The whole society is built on that, and obedience without question. And she just keeps throwing it in his face, and there's nothing he can do about it. He can object, he can try to twist it around, but she just falls right back on it. She's like, I'm sorry, and the way she did it too, so polite, even when he's saying, you forget your manners or whatever.
Yeah.
Nice though. Yeah.
Yeah, and even Ochiba, I feel like Ochiba kind of recognizes what Mariko is probably trying to do here in this scene as well, and she,
Yes.
she she tries to shut it down. Like, let's find another time to discuss this matter in private. And Mariko's like, I think not. We're
She's
gonna
like,
do
no, I
this right
don't.
now.
No, I've got to go. I'm sorry. You understand? I'm sure. It's time to go.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh,
It
when
was
she
just yeah,
was done and she got up and like turned and like flicked her like coat or her
her
robes, I
kimono.
was like,
Yeah,
mic
Yeah.
drop moment.
that was
Bye.
good. That was a
Like
mic
she
drop
just
moment.
flicked it, walked away,
Yeah,
and was like, stew on that, people. Yeah,
yeah.
think about that. That
Yeah.
that moment to me was like, bam. That was her boss moment. Like when she
Mm,
just got up and was like, "Yep, I'm gonna say my line, my name. I have no," and just turned around and was like, "Bye, people. End of discussion."
yeah. It was yeah, it was definitely one of those mic drop moments where she laid down the law and just took off. That's how you regulate right there. And it was just yeah, it was just a great scene. It really was a great scene. It's a great little power struggle there between Mariko and Ishido in this moment, which is something that I imagine Ishido probably doesn't face much of. I get the feeling Ishido is probably used to everybody just listening to everything that he says all the time. He doesn't seem like he's used to much pushback. So I really appreciated that in and of itself, where it seemed like he was like he's getting this resistance that he usually doesn't get. So yeah,
Yes.
knocking
And
him
then
down
the
a peg.
other scene where she was gonna commit Sudoku. I like how they like close the wall or curtain, so to speak. Like everybody's on the
Ah,
other side,
yeah,
but she's there with Untaro, and they have the opening behind them, so you're just kind of like the breeze is coming in, and it was just
yeah,
oh, that was crazy because everybody else with the guys, because I think some of the people in the comment section or maybe one of the videos or something were talking about how it's different for the women than it
yes.
is
A
for the
woman's
men.
seppuku ritual is different from the men, where the men kind of slit their belly open and disembowel themselves. Women pierce themselves in the heart.
And hers was it's like everything about it was poetic. Like it was they really emphasizing on the poetic side of things in this episode. Because she even had another little poem or something, or I don't know if it was the same poem or a new poem that she put down and like here this is my last words to be
Yeah, that's
said.
right. That's right.
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
there
she
was
leaves the
it's
poem
beautiful
as her last
episode.
kind of words. It is. It was beautifully shot, beautifully acted out, beautifully written, and again, it just echoes what this entire series has been from start to finish, where the writing has just been so good, but then the acting, the dialogue, everything that the execution of all of these scenes have been just absolutely top notch. And yeah, this was definitely a high point for me as well. It was one of the most. It was probably one of the most heart pounding scenes because for a second there, I legit thought this was going to be her end. I legit thought for a second there that she was going to kill herself. And then, like you said, Ravener, Ishido cut it very close, coming in at the very last possible second, literally right before she's about to pierce herself. In comes Ishido.
Yeah.
So I
She just
thought she
like
was a goner.
drops the knife, because she even like it was like real for her. She was like going down. I was, oh my god, I almost cried. I
It
was,
was
and then they faked me out because I'm like, okay, she's gonna make it, and then she didn't. I was like, no,
yes. It makes this
no, my
scene that
girl,
much more
no.
tragic, right? Knowing what's going to happen 10 minutes later.
And so does that mean like Blackthorn's gonna be heartbroken and go to Fuji, or is she like completely like I can't stand him? I couldn't completely tell where she stood with Blackthorn.
Interesting. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I know that everybody has been wondering where exactly Fuji is. Well, we know where she is at this point. She's still in Ajiro. But yeah, a lot of people have been wanting to see some Fuji scenes again, and we will see Fuji in the finale. She will make an appearance in the final episode. That much I do know for certain. But I don't know how much, to what extent we will see her. But hopefully, we'll see some. I get the feeling we'll get some good scenes between Blackthorn and Fuji. In the final episode, and of course, it's going to be interesting to see how Buntaro reacts to this as well. I know we had that scene in the previous episode with the famous tea ceremony scene where Mariko just completely rebuffs him. So it's going to be interesting to see how Buntaro reacts to the news of Mariko's death.
Oh yeah, and then May had a good comment also. She retracted it, but it really did make sense regarding the exploding the door being non-lethal. It probably would have been non-lethal if she wasn't right up against it. So,
Yeah, could she potentially have survived? Could they all potentially have survived if they maybe just if Yabushigi wasn't such a freaking coward in that moment and him and Blackthorn did manage to barricade the door and they all went to the very end of the room, there's a possibility that they all could have made it out of that. So that is a good point. That is a
I
very
mean,
good
they told us to.
observation.
Yeah, we ducked and covered for a nuclear attack when I was a kid in school.
Yeah,
We'd get
duck
in the
and
hall.
cover, that's all it takes. That'll save you from the radiation too.
Oh, and FYI, for an earthquake, you do not run into the bathroom. I have learned that.
No?
You
Okay.
go under a table, according to Scarlett. When we had the earthquake here, something told me to go into my bathroom, and I was told that's not what we're supposed to do. So, earthquake 101, do not run into your bathroom. Go find something you can hide under.
We got to update those 1950s emergency protocols. We found out
for tornadoes,
some interesting
not
information
earthquakes.
since then. And yeah, Jen Hack brings up a good point as well. With the Mariko is fulfilling her father's story arc by getting rid of a tyrant. She feels less shame about him that she realizes that someone has to stop tyrant Ishido. Again, it definitely kind of echoes her father's storyline as well, where her father previously went up against the previous kind of evil dictator at the time, which we know as Oda Nobunaga in real history. So yeah, her story very much kind of echoes her father's story, where she's kind of doing pretty much the same thing he did in terms of trying to bring down a ruthless dictator and save Japan. So very true, Jen. Very, very true. Kai has a question for the chat. Should Yabushigi be 1, allowed to commit seppuku, or 2, executed as a criminal? Either way, our favorite sociopath is dead. Now, that's a very good question. Yeah, everybody on the panel and everybody in the chat, we would love to get your thoughts on this. Do you think Yabushigi should even be given the honor to commit seppuku, or should he just be executed? Ravener, what do you think?
Ooh, so who was it that was holding him in the trailer for the next episode? Was it
just random guards? It was nobody.
I mean, was it Toranaga's men or Ishida's men though? That's the thing.
We don't know
What
yet.
color? Did they have like a color on their clothes or?
So yeah, dude. So if it's, I mean, because it changes. If it's Ishida's men, then Ishida isn't keeping his end of the bargain. Which is what Yabushigi was trying to get. To be able to serve in exchange for opening the door to the shinobi. But if it's Toranaga's men, then that means at some point somebody sussed out what was going on and captured him, because he was being treated roughly and he actually had some cuts on his face as well.
Yeah. Well, I won't say who's holding him here. All I will know is take a look at the background.
Oh, okay. That's a good point. Okay.
That's all I will say. That is all I will say.
Fog.
Take a look at the background there.
For those watching at home, for listening later on the podcast, it's fog.
Yeah.
No. And you know what? And yeah, all you guys that are listening after this is over with, catching up on it later, and everybody all around the world, thank you guys. We have literally all 4 corners of the world. And feel free to shout out either in the comment section or in the chat if you want where you're from, because we love having you guys from all over the place. But yeah, my guess is I have a feeling that he's not going to get the dignified end that he would normally expect. I don't think he's going to be allowed to commit it.
Interesting. What about you, Scarlett? Do you think Yabushigi should be allowed to commit seppuku, or do you think just a regular execution for him?
I mean, personally, I don't think he should be allowed to. I think he should be executed as a criminal, but I mean, I don't know. It kind of depends on who captures him, I think. And whether or not it's going to be like, because I mean, I don't know. That's a hard one because I don't know how far of what they know of what he did? Like, is this just like if it's Ishido, it could just be well, you're gonna, I don't know. You see, I think he would only do that for Toranaga, though. See, I'm confused. You know what? Just go with number 2. I'm sorry. I'm going number 2.
Number 2? Oh, totally fine. Totally fine. What about you, Dana? Seppuku for Yabushigi or regular execution?
I actually think he should be allowed to commit seppuku. Am I saying that even right? Just because I think that is going to dishonor him more. He has been trying so hard to avoid the blade in every instance that he can. So to force him to have to do it to himself, I think is going to be worse than somebody quickly ending his life.
Okay. Interesting. I mean,
Seppuku.
I think
there we go. Thank you.
seppuku. I think I would enjoy a seppuku scene a little bit more personally. Whether or not he deserves that honor, I guess it remains to be seen. But although just given his status and given that he is a lord, it seemed the kind of norm to offer, even when a lord such as him kind of commits the most heinous of betrayals. It seems almost customary to always at least offer them the chance to commit seppuku instead of just outright killing them. So I get the feeling he will at least be offered that opportunity. Whether or not he deserves it or not, that's a different story. I'm not sure. But one thing I think we can all agree on is, yes, Fuji is being beautiful somewhere right now. Absolutely. I 100% agree. But let's see what the chat is saying about this, guys. What do you think? Number 1 or 2? Number 1 being seppuku or number 2 being execution? Doc Hayes says number 2, execution. And as Michael points out, Gray's Ishido, Browns are Toranaga. So that'll give you some more clues as to what's happening in that still as well. Yabushigi is still, as Hand-Drawn Life brings out, exactly. Yabushigi is still a samurai. Regardless of his actions, they will politely demand seppuku. At least they would ask this at least once. And I get the feeling that's probably where this is heading as well. Even he has committed some heinous acts. At the end of the day, he still is a very high-born ranking samurai at the end of the day. So they'll probably at least offer it to him. Doc Hayes says if it's a Shida, then 1. Ooh, interesting. Leo V says, Chusapaku Yabu been on battlefield with Toranaga, Josen, and Ishido from when they talk to him. He's a samurai at the end of the day. Interesting. Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards Seppuku myself. Ted S says number 1. Also awesome. So yeah, seems like the chat's a little bit split down the middle. Hand-Drawn Life says 1. Ted S says let Buntaro do it. Now that would be super fitting right there if you have actually Buntaro be the second or the executioner. Could be interesting. If he's captured for betraying his liege lord, then seppuku. Same as Mariko's father. Yeah, I think that's where we're heading. Dude, YouTube has found out the hard way that limited number of likes. I found out the hard way YouTube has limited number of likes. What the hell? Yeah, YouTube's a little weird these days. But we appreciate every like we do.
If he does get caught, if Yabushigi does get caught and has to kill himself, does that mean like with Mariko's father, is his nephew and people in his line also going to have to?
I don't think so. That's usually what happens when the liege lord is condemned for some kind of criminal, or whether it's been treason or something like that. When the liege lord gets condemned, like Toranaga, then usually, customarily, everybody under him will also kind of get executed. But since this is just Yabushigi, I get the feeling, Omi and the rest of them won't be as well.
I was just curious about that.
Yeah, who knows? I could be wrong. Honestly, Yabushigi will probably be curious to see how long he lasts committing seppuku, since this fascinates him so much. That's a good point as well, Hand-Drawn Life. We have seen he does have this kind of innate fascination with death. We see that very early on in the season. So, yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, Buntaro soup, says Jen Hack. Hell yeah, let's get some Buntaro soup up in here. Seppuku for Yabushigi for sure, says Brian. If if John Blackthorne seconds him, that'll be some beautiful irony. That'll be pretty good as well. I think Blackthorne seconding him will be just as satisfying, if not even more satisfying, than Buntaro doing it as well. So that's a good point. What rating would you give his death, says Seamus. And Seamus also says, too. Now, that's a good point. We have seen Yabushige, again, he has this fascination with death. He's always ranking death as to whether it's good or bad. He talks about Nagakato's death and ranks it a little bit better than being eaten by dogs, but not as good as boiled alive. So, yeah, he's got this weird kind of ranking system. Yeah, I don't know how, if he does go the seppuku route, I would rank that death as pretty honorably. If he just gets executed, I don't think that's anywhere near as good as seppuku myself. But who knows? Who knows? Yeah, Josen got robbed of a beautiful death. He did. Josen did get robbed. And you hear that line from Josen just before he dies. Like, this is not how samurai fight. There's no honor in this, in the way that Nagakato kind of just sneak attacked everybody with the cannon. As cool as that scene was, it was a little dishonorable. Kai has another asking the chat what you think he deserves. Protocol demands seppuku, but nice answers, everyone. Yeah, what does he deserve as opposed to what does protocol dictate? Two very different things. That is true. I think, again, he doesn't deserve seppuku, but I think he will be offered it as well. But does he deserve it? At this point, probably not. Probably not. Leo V is hoping that Omi lives. Omi and Kiku need to live happily ever after. Yeah, Omi has been an interesting character, to say the least. And I really actually enjoyed some of Omi's scenes in the previous episode where, the scene with him and Kiku when they're out there looking at the plot of land, where he's starting to realize that he doesn't even know what he's fighting for anymore. And again, I know we've talked about this almost ad nauseum, but it kind of comes back to Toranaga playing things incredibly close to the chest, almost to his detriment sometimes, where sometimes it can have a very negative effect on the morale of the rest of his men, which we kind of saw there with Omi. So, yeah. This was a damn good episode, says Dean James Comics, mate. Absolutely. I mean, this was just absolutely phenomenal. Bintaro soup is mostly bitter, I reckon. Yeah, I imagine it's not very sweet, for sure.
You got to take out the bay leaf.
Jen Hack says, I think Father Martin will be horrified by Mariko's death. Will the Catholics get together with Toranaga to fight Ishido? I imagine Blackthorne will be against it. Now, that's a very good, interesting question as well. How exactly are Father Martin and the Catholics going to react to Mariko's death? We know Father Martin and Mariko were incredibly close, had a real genuine friendship, it seemed, between the two. And of course, Mariko obviously holds him in very high esteem, with him being the one that kind of converted her to Catholicism in the first place. So yes, I get the feeling Martin is going to be devastated when he learns of Mariko's death. And I do think this will spurn him to reach out to Toranaga and at least warn them, if nothing else. But it seems like the bishop is firmly against Toranaga still. This guy's just very stubborn and very stupid, it seems. But I do think Father Martin is starting to realize that Toranaga is the better ally. But will the whole Catholic Church switch sides? I'm not sure. I imagine if Omi and Ono do, maybe that would give him a little bit better of a chance. But I don't know. And that's another good point as well. I wonder how Kiyama, the other regents on the council, the Christian regents, how exactly will they react to Mariko's death as well? Will Mariko's death, cause them to turn away from Ishido, potentially? Who knows? Who knows? Not as good as Boiled Alive, but better than Slipping on a Rock. Oh man, yeah, that scene, I still can't get over that scene. Poor Nagakato, man. For a character like him who was searching and really wanted this kind of glorious, beautiful death, he's always talking about a beautiful death, to end up getting one of the most useless and pointless deaths in the entire series. It's pretty ironic.
Karma.
Yeah, it was funny. Strange, man. That's one thing I'm really loving about this this show is it's been such a trip over 9 episodes, and characters that you love turn out to be, terrible, and like nobody's beyond redemption though. It's so cool that you know, the people that you initially didn't much care for, you know, just thinking about like Nagakata and Omi, you know, Omi was just a shit stirrer. He was over there talking to Kiku and, you know, putting stuff in Avocado's ear, and you know, nobody really paid them any attention, and people were like, oh, you know, he's just a punk, he's just whatever. And you know, I was always a fan of I came around on Avocado very early. I was you know, because he was just a kid in that environment, you know, with all these old guys talking about their glory days, their war stories, and the only way you're ever going to measure up, the only way you're ever going to get a seat at the big boy table is to have that something under your belt yourself. Well, all those guys could do is try to fast forward that, try to, you know, try to get in the thick of battle as quick as they could. I don't know what he was thinking doing an assassination. That is not the honorable way. But I mean, in his little mind, he at least had like the little sprouts of a plan. So I didn't mind him at all. And then other guys like Yabashige, you know, we watched him do the tightrope walk between the two sides, and finally, you know, I think his luck has run out. And again, you know, he was a beloved character through 9 or 8 and 3/4 episodes, and now he's you know, he is a villain with capital V.
Yeah, him letting the shinobi you know, assassins in, I think that was the point of no return for Yabushige. Up until that point, redemption could have been possible for Yabushige, but the second he opens that gate and lets all of them in, boom, that's it. There's kind of no going back for Yabushige's character at that point. As much as I love the performance and much as I've enjoyed the character, once he opens that gate, redemption is kind of out of the question for Yabushige at that point. So
yeah, he almost sealed his fate in that moment.
I think so. Yeah.
Opening that gate chose the side for him.
Yep. Indeed. And Cam says the courtyard scene was his favorite. Was his favorite scene in the series. Yeah. Again, it was very good, and I know we've talked about it. You know, in terms of it being very realistic, and that's what I really enjoyed about it the most. It wasn't this kind of like you said, you know, over the top girl boss moment where Mariko just kills 20 people single handedly. They play it much more realistic. How you would probably see a fight scene like this go, you know, happen with as skilled as Mariko is at hand-to-hand combat. She's still going up against almost a dozen men here, and it is a dozen men who probably don't even really want to kill her either, knowing that Mariko is, you know, who she is, basically. So yeah, it was a really well choreographed scene. It was a fun scene to watch. It was some good action, and I'm glad they didn't take it over the top. It's very easy to take fight scenes like this over the top and do this kind of crazy choreography. I'm really glad that they didn't go that route and they kept it much more realistic. So this was a phenomenal scene. I definitely agree. Very good stuff. Avocado tempted the Grim Reaper with all of his death talk. He did. He tempted him one too many times, for sure. Who is still holding out hope that true Crimson Sky or the big 40-minute set piece will happen in episode 10? And yeah, I guess that's something we have been wondering for a very long time, ever since some of these stills started to come out, where we see what appears to be Ishido and Toranaga dressed in full armor with their armies behind them, most likely the Battle of Sekigahara. But what exactly are we going to see? This is a very good point. Will we actually see some other version of Crimson Sky, or do you think we will actually see a big battle scene in this final episode? And I would love to get the chats and the panel's opinions on this. I know we've talked about it in the past, but might as well one more time. What do you guys think in the chat? Do you think after seeing episode 9 and seeing how everything played out and knowing we have only one episode left, do you think the show will actually showcase the final big full-pitch battle between Ishido and Toranaga? Will we actually see the Battle of Sekigahara, or will it just be kind of alluded to and skipped over, similar to how it is in other iterations of Shogun, where they don't actually show the battle itself, they just allude to it afterwards, and they kind of skip over it? What do you think? Do you think we're going to get any Battle Ravener after seeing episode 9?
Man, I don't think so, honestly. I hope so. I would love to see it. I don't know how they're all going to fit it in and tie up all the loose ends with all,
Mhm.
like we talked about, with all the characters they have to. Granted, they left multiple characters out of episode 9. They still have to wrap up the plot lines with most of them. Other than Mariko, there's still a lot of survivors. They have to tie all this up with a bow. I just don't see a whole lot of time for more action, unless it's going to be. I think it's going to be fast paced. I wonder how many scenes they're going to try to fit all in together. Because but again, how do you engineer Ishido's defeat without having the Battle of Sekigahara?
The battle, yeah.
I don't know. Do they take the time to explain what happened, or do they just show it or just give you like a montage or something?
And then kind of fast forward over it, maybe like we see the very beginnings of a fight breakout, and then it kind of just skips to the aftermath of the battle, and we see like the remains, like we see like a nice close-up shot of the battlefield itself with all the dead bodies and everything everywhere, but we don't actually see the battle itself. Maybe just the beginning of it. We see two sides charging towards each other, and then boom, it cuts to another scene.
The Red Devils. The Red Devils were the ones who they attacked out of turn, but they were supposed to escort. It was supposed to be one of Tokugawa's sons they were escorting, and they're just like, fuck, and they just charged all red, a whole unit of guys, all on horseback, all armored in red. That's what they called them, the Red Devils, and everybody wanted to be the first one to draw first blood. That would be a awesome scene to start out the battle with, and then then they could smash cut to the very end and show,
because we did get that one line here in this episode where I know we were wondering how the show was going to play this. We've only seen one of Toranaga's sons, but Toranaga has multiple sons in the book, and the real Tokugawa did as well. And we did get that one line from Ishido earlier on in the episode when they're talking about Toranaga's son's death. Ishido says he has others, so he does have other sons on the show version as well. That's not just a miniseries or a book or Tokugawa thing. He does have other sons elsewhere. So what you're saying could be possible. It would be a little out of place for another son to kind of just stroll up out of nowhere when we haven't seen the son in any other sons in any other episodes, but who knows? What about you, Scarlett? You think we're going to get one big battle scene to finish everything off, or do you think they're just going to allude to the battle?
Yeah, I'm kind of have to go with what Ravener said. If we get a battle at all, it's going to be something real, like just kind of cut scenes or real just quick stuff. Because even what with the trailer, it shows almost like with Toranaga going to cut somebody's head off or something. So I don't know. Oh, they still got Fuji. They got everybody. They got the survivors. You're gonna have the aftermath. There's gonna have to be some kind of council meeting or something. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's a lot to fit in one episode. Oh, I'm kind of worried, but either way, though, it was still a good show all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do know coming into this final episode, from what we've looked up, it seems like the final episode, episode 10 of the series, has, I believe, a 55 or 57-minute runtime. So it's not going to be, and I was hoping for an extended episode for the finale, because sometimes with miniseries and other shows, the final episode in a series will tend to be a little bit longer than the rest. So I was hoping we were going to get like an hour and a half long episode for the finale, but it's looking like it's just going to be 1 hour like it has been up until this point. So I guess we'll see. I guess we shall see. But what about you, Dana? Do you think we're going to get a full pitch battle on screen?
I honestly stand with what I think before. I think we're going to get some kind of battle, but I think Blackthorn is going to narrate over it. And I think he's going to kind of tell us what has happened throughout the battle, and they're going to show us some stuff, because I don't think they'd give us the scene with all these soldiers, Toranaga standing on one end, Ishido standing on another end, and not give us something. But I think it's going to be Blackthorn almost maybe telling somebody the story of the battle, maybe future or just somebody, and we're going to hear Blackthorn maybe narrating the battle scene while we see a few things, and then it might fade to something else. That's how I personally think they're going to do it.
Okay. Interesting. And yeah, as much as I really want to see a battle, as much as I am hoping to see a battle, I'm not expecting it either at this point. I also think it is, and that's right, 67 minutes, not 57, 67 minutes. The final episode is going to be. Thank you, Michael. But yeah, I tend to agree. I think as much as I really want to see the battle, I don't think we're going to see a full pitch battle scene in this final episode. I think there's just so much to get through. They're not going to really have time to do that. But yeah, again, as much as I want to see it, I am not expecting it. Michael Lockhart is saying not going to happen. It will end like the book in the 80 series, unfortunately. Interesting. I tend to kind of agree. Yeah, I want to see a battle, but I don't know. She showed no fear. Loved this scene. Absolutely. I love how they kept this fight in the courtyard very realistic. Yeah, again, that was very good. I loved how realistic that scene was. And yes, Crimson Herring, for crying out loud. Hannah Sawai said she cracked her tooth during this fight scene from being so focused and intense. Wow, interesting. Almost like she was maybe, clenching her teeth so hard during the fight scene that she might have cracked one. That's pretty gnarly, if nothing else. That is pretty gnarly. Dracula thinks that there will be no battle scene, but I'm still keeping fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hoping so as well. Was that Buntaro wailing on the drums? No, it wasn't Buntaro. It was just a random guard. I kind of had to take a double take because I almost thought it was Buntaro too at first, but no, it was just a regular guard. I don't know if I have that still here, but yeah, it was just a regular guard that was banging on that drum. It was not Buntaro. Buntaro at this point would not be in Osaka, I don't think, yet. He would still be with Toranaga and everybody else in Jiro getting ready to travel to Osaka. Well, at least that's what Ishido thinks anyway, that they're traveling there. But no, that was not Buntaro. But I also had to take a double take because I almost thought it was. It will be Blackthorn doing some shadow puppets with his hands over a fire and telling the children he has with Fuji about the Battle of Sekigahara. Now, that would be freaking cool. Again, I don't really mind deviations from the source material here and there. I'm totally fine with that. This is an adaptation at the end of the day, keyword being adapt, not exactly one-to-one comparison. So yeah, I don't mind changes happening here and there. So that would be a change that I would kind of even welcome. Seeing Mariko, seeing Blackthorn and Fuji kind of, years down the line, retelling the Battle of Sekigahara to their kids or something. That could be a really interesting way to end the series. I would like that. That's a good one, hand down.
She wants to die too, though. So it would be out of the frying pan into the fire with Blackthorn and with his suicidal girlfriends.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Oh god.
Brian says if there is a big battle scene, it will be the best
really
kept
laugh.
spoiler ever. The book skipped over it. Yeah, indeed. Again, is that they've deviated a little bit at times here from the book. Well, not a little bit. They've deviated a good amount from the book here and there in certain scenes leading up to this. So, them throwing in a battle could potentially be a possibility. I'm not really expecting it, but if it does happen, yeah, it would be the best kept spoiler ever for sure. For sure. Good stuff, guys. Yeah, avocados are slippery. Maybe that was foreshadowing. Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was. Toranaga is basically Nick Cannon of the 16th century, says Leo V. Yeah, he's just got kids everywhere, I guess. Just got kids everywhere. You know what goes well with avocado? Toast. And avocado was definitely toasted, says
Yeah.
Nice.
And I know Kai has been championing, this idea for a while, and I 100% agree with him. Although we probably aren't going to get a season 2, I would love a series just solely set around the Battle of Sekigahara. I think that could be a very interesting series. Obviously, it would be very action-packed. That would be pretty cool to see. I would not mind watching that. I would definitely watch that for sure. Yeah, smashed avocado, says Jen Hack. That's it. I'm going to try and drop.
You started a trend.
Yep, it started now. Once you take the genie out of the bottle, the genie does not go back in. We got avocados in the chat. Let's get those avocados in chat, ladies and gentlemen. I see Henry Bemis has avocados. Kai has avocados. Let's see those avocados, guys. That's it. I'm going to try and draw Anjin and Fuji with two little kids and Pixar-like cartoon style, reading a storybook called Shogun. Well, hand-drawn life, if you do actually go ahead and draw something like that, definitely tag me on Twitter with it, and we will certainly show it on next week's show, for sure. We will definitely show it, if you do it. And that goes for everybody else. We have had a little bit of fan art come in on some of the other shows that we cover here on the channel. We've had some really good from fan art come in every once in a while. So if there are any other artists out there that do fan art, definitely always tag me in some kind of way. Either let me know. I'm always on Twitter. I'm at cjeremy33. So if you guys do have some fan art and you ever do something like that, definitely tag me in it and I will show it on the show gladly. We love seeing fan art. Hope they show Ishido bowing down Toranaga from defeat, where the tables have turned. That would be a very satisfying scene, if nothing else. We finally get to see Ishido himself being forced to bow. Could be good. That could be a good scene. Was Avocado Catholic and blessed by a priest? That then he would be a holy guacamole.
Oh my god!
Wah, wah.
Oh man, this is why we have the best chat in the world. You guys are the freaking best, absolute best. Okay, but hear me out. Fuji's grandfather, old Iron Fist Hiramatsu, asked Fuji to consider living to bask in the victory they died for. This is true. Yes, we did see one of Hiramatsu's last wishes before he died was for Fuji to go on living and bask in the victory. So will that have any kind of bearing on Fuji's decision going forward to, commit seppuku? Or to choose to live after all is said and done. It's a good point, Hand Drawn Life. What exactly will she choose? But there we go. I see the avocados are present in the chat. Avocados. I love it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, avocado plus rock equals hoop. Yeah, not a good combination. Not a good combination. You guys are absolutely the best. Absolutely the best. But before we get ready to close it down, something we always like to do here on these streams, we like to get the chat's take on everything, and that's one of the main reasons why we do these shows. It's not just for us to get up here and talk. We want to know what you guys think about these episodes as well. So before we close it down, let's get some ratings from everybody on the panel and in the chat. Episode 9 on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect and 1 being shite. How exactly would you guys rate episode 9 of Shogun? Now, for me, I think this might have been one of my, if not my favorite episode yet, believe it or not. So I am definitely giving this episode a 9. This one definitely earned a 9 from me personally. I loved a lot of what was going on here. The acting was great. Mariko's ending to her story arc was incredibly beautifully done. And it's going to have a very profound impact on the rest of the characters going forward on both sides of the war. So this episode had just about everything that I look for in good television, all wrapped into one: drama, intrigue, the good political maneuvering, and a decent, healthy amount of action as well. This episode had all of it. So I would definitely give this episode a solid 9 out of 10 for me. But yeah, let us know in the chat and on the panel, what would you guys give this one? Ravener, out of 10, where do you rank episode 9?
Well, they still had those super harsh, whoever the editor is, the scene editor, the super harsh black right between, they'll end a scene, nothing but blackness, and then go on to the next one. Editor gets 0 out of 10. But, last week I gave the harshest, I think the harshest assessment of any episode of anybody of any episode. This week it was all redeemed. It all came right back. Everybody was acting consistently. There were still surprises. They didn't really tax your suspension of disbelief like we talked about with the fighting and whatnot. I really enjoyed this, and this one was easily for me, hands down, the best episode, the most productive episode, so full of tension, so full of emotion, just awesome. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna stick with I'll go with your 9. I'm happy with that.
Oh, nice. I like it. And I like what Brian put here in the chat as well. This might have to be our rating system going forward, guys, from now on. You guys have started the avocado trend, and I don't think it is going to stop. Because where is it? Where is it? Brian, I think Brian says 9 avocados out of 10. 10 avocados. So yeah, I think that's going to have to be our Shogun rating system going forward. How many avocados out of 10 do you rate episode 9? So yeah, 9 for me, 9 for Ravener. Scarlett, where do you rank episode 9?
Oh man, I'm gonna give it a 9.5. I want to give it a 10, but I'm holding back to see what the last episode is. But man, yeah, definitely a good strong 9.5.
9.5. Nice, very nice. What about you, Dana? Where do you put episode 9?
I'm going 9 big avocados. It was really, really good. I loved everything about this episode. I was glued to my screen from start to end, and you saw my response in the Discord. I was just like, what? Like, holy balls. That's like all I could say when this episode was over. I was just like, wow, this episode blew me away.
It did. It was phenomenal. Again, everything that I look for in a good TV series, this episode had a little bit of all of it. You know, the drama, the great writing, the great dialogue, a little bit of action. Everything that I look for happened in this episode. So, yeah, I give it a solid 9, and I cannot wait to see the finale. Let's see what you guys are saying as well. How many avocados do you guys give Shogun episode 9? Hand Drawn Life says 10 out of 10 avocados. I like it. 10 out of 10. We got a 9 out of 10 from Ruiner XL, another great ranking. Michael Lockhart says 10, and I never, ever give 10s. This is true. I very rarely do I give out 10s myself. Something has to be incredibly, like, almost perfect for it to be a 10 for me. But I will give out some 9s here and there when something is truly, truly well done. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys want to give this one a 10, I think it is very well deserving, if nothing else. So, 10 from Michael Lockhart as well. Henry Bemis gives this one a 9. A 9 from Leo V as well. We have a 9 for 9 from Seamus as well. We got a 9.9 from Doc Hayes. Very close to perfect. I like it. We got a 9.5 from for Lady Mariko. Absolutely. And again, the avocados in the chat are definitely dedicated to Mariko this week. She was a true, true warrior. We got a 10 from Jen Hack. Hand Drawn Life says, wait, I only give it 9 avocados, no Fuji. Yeah, the no Fuji loses 1 avocado for me as well. I agree. We got 10 avocados from Brian. We got 10 from Ted S. Kai says 11 out of 10. Hell yeah, man. 11 out of 10. I'm sure a lot of you crimson cried because you chased the crimson herring and realized the crimson lie. Mariko was the true crimson sky. Absolutely.
I am dying. Are you reading the chat? They are so funny. Jen Heck. And friggin' Henry Beavis. I can't. I can't.
Yeah, the chat is absolutely killing it tonight, as you guys always do. That's why I love these discussions, and you guys really are the freaking best. We have a 9+ from Cam as well. Loses a point for no Fuji Bay, says Henry Bemis. Yeah, we should definitely rate in avocados. Absolutely. Ravener should be happy. Mariko finally got her comeuppance. It could have been 14 out of 10 of Fuji-sama was there. Yeah, it could have been a 14 if Fuji was there. I like it. I like it. Agree with Fuji fans. No Fuji, 9 avocados. We got 10 avocados from Jen Hack as well. I mean, absolutely killing it. Unless someone slips up, I hope episode 10 will be 10 avocados. I hope so as well.
I'm so happy, man. I'm so happy that you guys are choosing 10s. I mean, that means that this is a show that you guys are super enjoying, and I'm so happy to be able to share this with everybody and everybody on the panel everybody in the chat, man. This is awesome. Let's keep going. More ratings.
More avocados coming.
More
We got 9
avocados.
from Quan Solar. 9 avocados. Flow like water, hit like rock. We're Nagakado and Omi Avocado Bros. Oh, Jen.
Right.
Killing me, Jen.
Shot over there.
I can't. I don't know if I just smoked too much, but I am like literally laughing hysterically.
9, not enough Fuji for a 10, says Seamus. Does that make Kiku an avocado?
Yes, it
That
does.
is
Exactly,
a
like
good
I
one,
can't.
Henry
I literally
that is a
can't.
good one. I don't know, man. That is that might be MVP comment of the night right there. That is a good one. Does that make Kiku an avocado? Don't let this amazing episode distract you from the fact that Hector is running 3 Honda Civics with spoon engines. Oh man, I haven't heard a Fast and Furious reference in forever. That was good, Rooftop Korean. You got me there, man. Yep, you got me there. Avocado
my
bro,
God.
indeed.
I'm actually like crying. This is too much.
My side is hurting from laughing so much. That's how much the chat is killing me tonight. And you guys are absolutely killing it. Kiku lives in Avocado. Oh man. Absolutely
Look what you
phenomenal
started,
stuff.
Ravener. It's all Ravener's fault. We're just gonna blame
this is all-
Ravener.
yeah.
This is all on
Hashtag
him.
blame Ravener, guys. Blame Ravener. Yeah, well,
best.
Kiku is a avocado pro. She is at that. She is an avocado pro and an avocado hoe. Good stuff. Absolutely good stuff.
We did not see this go in this direction.
No, I did not see this going in this direction, but I welcome it. I absolutely welcome it. But again, that's why these streams are so much fun. We genuinely love getting on here and hanging out with all of you guys in the chat. You guys always come with some of the best stuff, the best comments, the best theories, the best thoughts, and the best freaking jokes around. I truly don't think it's an exaggeration when I say you guys truly are the best chat in all of YouTube. And I cannot thank each and every one of you guys for coming and hanging out with us week after week, going through this crazy ordeal of covering this show, which has been so fun from start to finish. And we are going to keep the party going. Once Shogun ends, we are definitely going to dive into the 80s miniseries version of Shogun as well and compare and contrast the two different ones. And of course, we also have House of the Dragon Season 2 less than 2 months away. So we will definitely be diving headfirst into all things House of the Dragon as well. And of course, as our Frumily knows, we have Season 3 of From coming later on this year as well. So we still have some awesome shows to look forward to here on the channel, and I really hope all of you guys choose to come back and hang out with us. And if anyone hasn't seen House of the Dragon yet, I would highly recommend getting out there. Check out House of the Dragon Season 1. Is absolutely phenomenal show. Great storytelling. If you like Shogun, you'll probably like House of the Dragon. It's super, super good. And we will also be doing a House of the Dragon Season 1 rewatch party right here on the channel when we get a little bit closer to Season 2 premiering. Once we get around a month out, we are going to start our House of the Dragon Season 1 rewatch parties, where we rewatch every episode of House of the Dragon from start to finish and get us prepped for the next season. But again, I just cannot thank each and every one of you. You guys are incredibly awesome. You guys bring it every single week, and I can't thank you enough for taking time out of what I'm sure is your busy day and your busy night. I know, during the week is tough. I know Monday and Wednesday on the nights that we stream Shogun, it's not always the easiest of nights. Mondays especially, it's the beginning of the week. But you guys never fail to kind of come in here and hang out with us. You guys have been supporting the channel and the show, and I cannot thank each and every one of you enough for that. So the least we can do is continue to hang out, go live, because we want to know what you guys think as well. This is certainly not just us up here talking. We want to know what you guys think about this. And episode 10 is just a week away, less than a week away now. We got the final episode of Shogun to look forward to. And of course, Raven and I will be live Monday night for our pregame show. And then next week, right here, same time, same place, we will also be diving into the finale of Shogun live right here with each and every one of you. And hopefully you guys come and hang out with us for the ride. And if you haven't already, before I close things out, I have recently uploaded my episode 10 trailer breakdown. We got a pretty good looking trailer that came out for the final episode that we will be diving a little bit deeper into on Monday. But if you guys have not seen my episode 10 trailer breakdown, definitely check that out. I just threw the link in the chat. Yeah, again, I cannot thank each and every one of you. You guys have been so freaking awesome. I love covering the show. I love discussing it with each and every one of you. You guys come with some of the best theories and thoughts. So again, just from the bottom of my heart, I cannot express the gratitude enough to everybody in the chat that has supported the channel and the show and everything we've been doing here. You guys really are the freaking best. And we will continue to go live and hang out and break down all of these awesome shows that we are looking forward to. And hopefully you guys come and join us for the ride. But before we close out, also, definitely don't forget to give Scarlet Fever a subscribe as well. She goes live every Friday night for the Fever Hour, and Scarlet and Dana will also be covering Evil Season 4, the final season of Evil, when it premieres very, very soon. So if you guys are Evil fans, definitely don't miss out on the Scarlet and Dana Evil reviews. And of course, come and check out the Fever Hour that goes live every Friday night on Scarlet's channel. But again, big thank you to each and every one of you guys for joining us tonight. One episode left. We will be here next week to break everything down, and keep an eye out on the channel. I have some very interesting Shogun videos that I have planned throughout the week that I will be dropping probably every other day, including a real John Blackthorne video. Who is the real John Blackthorne video? So keep an eye out for all of that stuff. And until next time, excuse me. Stay safe out there, everybody. Have a great and phenomenal rest of your week, and we will see all of you on the next one. Bow.
Death is in our air, in sea, in earth. It can come for us at any moment. To show your true heart is to risk your life. Enemies are everywhere and friends nowhere. Life and death are the same. Both can have value and purpose. Remember, we live and we die. We control nothing beyond that.